from the start of the competition, they haven't lost any. They are unbeaten, beaten all the teams that they've faced so far. But I know this will not be an easy task as they face the mammoth task of beating the University of Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, Onza coming up front. The University of Zambia lost one, won one. Let's see what will happen today. One thing about the University of Zambia is when it comes to support, I think they are unbeaten. Can I hear some noise from Onza? Okay. Okay. Can we have some seats provided for the timekeepers? Can we have some seats for the timekeepers? As well as those to pass on evidence. So maybe we can have 2 here and 2 on the other side. If you're joining us on Facebook or on YouTube, thank you so much. Please do leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us who you think deserves to win, who you think should be the best speaker. Can we have the timekeepers and those to share evidence? While that is being done, I will read out the motion. This House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. I will read that again. This House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. Timekeepers, evidence people, are we ready? Quickly. No, there are 2 on both sides. Both of you are timekeepers? Okay. You sure? Okay. Oh yes, the podium is here, so it's fine. Okay. So you can get a seat there. Okay. Yes, that's fine. The timekeepers can move this side, Good Samaritans on the other side. Speaking of the podium is here, so they'll be getting the evidence from here to pass to the judges. So we are okay now. Judges, are we ready? Okay. Audience, are we ready? Guys, come on. We are students. Are we ready? I hope we'll do better than that. So please remember, to the timekeepers, the first 3 speakers have 4 minutes each. They can be interjected twice. If they do accept an interjection, pause the time and begin the time for interjections. An interjection is to last for no more than 30 seconds. Okay, and so we begin. In this debate, Levi Mwanawasa is the government and the University of Zambia are the opposition, which again I feel is strange considering that UNZA is the government, but okay. We begin. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister, a round of applause.
progress has never been risk-free, but that has never been a reason to regret progress. Now, members of this House, it is therefore fitting that I propose to the motion under fundamental scrutiny that states as I stipulate, beginning of quote. This House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in the capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. End of articulation. But before I want my debate, it would be impolite of me to proceed without recognizing the presence of the following people. To the moderator, I salute. To the judges, I say judges fairly and accordingly. To the timekeeper, keep the time ticking. Esteemed dignitaries, members of this august House, may I simply say, all diplomatic etiquette be indeed highly, highly observed. Bonafide affiliates of the session, as I set the tone as the Prime Minister for this debate, my task on this podium is very simple, and that is 1. To introduce the motion to the House. 2. To redefine the motion in all clarity as per the government. And 3. Give a detailed blueprint as to how we as the government will flow. Now, members of the House, in order to do so, we do realize that there are fundamental principles and key words within the motion that need to be understood, isolating both artificial intelligence and capital markets. According to the International Monetary Fund, it defines capital markets as the markets where financial instruments such as bonds, shares are issued to secure long-term finance and where they are traded. According to the OECD Artificial Intelligence Papers, it defines AI as a system-based machine that used for explicit or implicit objectives, infers from the input it receives how to generate inputs. May the Good Samaritan please do likewise. Now, members of the House, allow me to be very clear. Imagine a scale. On one hand are the benefits of artificial intelligence in the capital markets, and on the other are the risks associated with the adoption of artificial intelligence into these capital markets. Members of the House, what are we as the government saying? We are saying that the benefits associated with the integration of artificial intelligence into these capital markets outweigh, they are more, they are greater, members of the House, than the risks that are associated with its adoption. We as the government are not saying that the risks do not exist. We are not taking away, members of the House, risks from this equation. But what we are saying, members of the House, is that the benefits have done more good than they have done harm. Now, members of the House, we know that with the introduction of anything new on whatever market, there are risks. Take, for instance, the algorithmic trading, members of the House, where people would sit all day, members of the House, to watch the market. But with the introduction of programmed rules, members of the House, or algorithms, computers were now able. Allowed?
Thank you so much. Now, the honorable member tells us that AI has done more good than harm. Have you already implemented AI in capital markets? And if so, where is the evidence?
Now, bonafide affiliates of the session, this is why we as the government are here, members of the House, in this debate to show you how and why, members of the House, the benefits of artificial intelligence in the capital markets outweigh the risks. Now, members of the House, as I was saying, that with the introduction of these programmed rules, members of the House, and algorithms, computers are now able to calculate the cost, members of the House, effectively, members of the House, and they are now able to monitor the market. And yes, at the onset, members of the House, there were people who offered these risks, members of the House, but it took courageous people to now come on board and said, yes, despite the risks being there, despite the risks of introducing this algorithmic trading, yes, the benefits of this thing, members, allowed.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorable Speaker. If you say that the benefits of AI are effective with regards to trading, how then do you account for global markets that suffer from average 12 mini flash crashes every single day if they're effective? Thank you very much. If you say that AI is able to account for things effectively, how then do you account for global markets that now suffer from an average 12 mini flash crashes every single day?
Bonafide affiliates of the session, again, I repeat. The motion under fundamental scrutiny is saying that this House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in the capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. Now, we as the government are here to show how the benefits of the integration of artificial intelligence outweigh the risks, and we are going to prove, members of the House, as we carry on with this debate, how and why the benefits outweigh the risks.
Your time is up, Honorable Member.
20 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds it is.
Members of the House, my second speaker will show how artificial intelligence improves risk management and financial supervision. He will also talk about how it increases transparency, detecting suspicious trading. Our honorable member will show how artificial intelligence makes investment decisions more accurate through data analysis and strengthens fraud detection and cybersecurity. And our chief whip will not only rebut
Your
the
time is
evil...
up.
I rest my case.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The Prime Minister making her submission to begin the argument on behalf of the government. But let's hear what the opposition has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the opposition.
Honorable judges, distinguished members of the House, might I simply say, all protocol is highly and highly observed. Panel, AI has taken the world by storm, transforming and impacting humanity in ways that we've never seen before. But as we navigate our way through this new territory, it is imperative and important that we move with caution. Panel, we understand that AI has great benefits, but the motion today asks us one simple question, to weigh the scale. On the right hand, we have benefits of AI, and on the left hand, we have the risks that come with AI. And our burden as side opposition is very simple. We are going to show you why this scale tilts to the left. Why is it that the risks associated with AI are greater than the benefits? Now, panel, as first speaker, I will now read out the motion for you. The motion reads as I quote, "This House believes that the benefits of AI in capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption." End of quotation. Now, first, I'll define key terms in this motion. I'll read the terms to be as concise and precise as possible. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is defined as a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem-solving skills, making decisions, and creativity and autonomy. Risk. According to the US Securities Exchange Commission, in finance, risk refers to the degree of uncertainty and or potential loss inherent in investment decisions. Now, as we build our case, we'll show you that the degree of uncertainty is enormous when it comes to AI. We'll also show you that the potential loss is enormous when it comes to AI as we build our case as opposition. Now, panel, we understand that also the Zambian government has taken strides in adopting AI in other industries. But for the capital markets, we are saying the risk is very big. Panel, it's also important to note that the godfather of AI himself, Godfrey Hinton, who dedicated 40 years of his, I'll engage you shortly, who dedicated 40 years of his life in developing AI, has said AI models have to be regulated first. They have a tendency to lie, steal, and deceive to achieve their goal. Now, is this what we want in our capital markets today? A system that's going to lie, steal, and cheat when capital markets are built on trust? I think certainly not. I will now pass on these judges for further verification and confirmation.
May the speaker pause.
Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, the Honorable just mentioned that AI has the ability to steal, to manipulate, and also go out of its way. But members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, AI is a tool, and the tool is programmed by a human. So can we fault the tool based on the human's action, or do we fault the human who is misusing the tool?
Firstly, I'll try and correct the speaker. Artificial intelligence is not programmed, it is trained. And secondly, Godfrey Hinton himself, the godfather of AI, said it's very hard to predict what these models are actually thinking of. And I think our third speaker and our second speaker will come and highlight further with further proof and verification. Now, panel, let us understand what exists on our capital markets today. We have people's livelihoods, we have people's investments, we have pension funds. Now, panel, NAPSA itself says that 43% of its investment portfolio is in government money, such as bonds and treasuries, and 5% is on the market. What this means that majority of Zambians' pension funds and people's lifelong investments are on the market. What does this tell us? In case AI makes a mistake, it means people's lifelong investments are at risk, and this is a risk that we cannot deal with. We have to mitigate the risk, then I'll engage you. Allowed.
Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, it is a risk to put people's assets on the capital market and entrust them with human beings as well. But the only difference between human beings as well and artificial intelligence is that artificial intelligence doesn't choose emotion. As you said, it's constantly learning. So it's able to learn and make better decisions than humans who act on emotion.
Panel, I'll engage that in my next argument. So the IMF actually confirms that AI models do increase efficiency, but efficiency comes with volatility. What do I mean by this? AI has the potential, one, to make wrong decisions and to make redundant decisions. He's mentioned something about machine learning. Now let us understand one thing about machine learning. It will keep on making the same mistakes that are proven to be correct and correct and correct. What happens is that companies that are not recommended or that may not be recommended but are good investments will be left behind. And that's a Zambia that we don't want. A Zambia where people are left behind. We cannot simply have that in today's debate. Now moving
Your
on.
time is up, honorable member. 20 seconds only.
Thank you. Moving on to volatility. Panel, AI is efficient and faster, but with greater speed comes greater risk. AI can make 1 million transactions a second, while a human being makes 100 transactions a second. Now imagine if those 1 million transactions a second go wrong. What happens to the market? Zambia loses more. So before we can actually engage AI, it's
Your
very
time is
imperative.
up.
Thank you very much.
The leader of the opposition, laying the foundation for the opposition. In case you're just joining us, the debate is between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia. The former as the government, the latter as the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, the Deputy Prime Minister will now take the stand.
From traditional capital trading to fintech innovations, artificial intelligence stands at the center and the bedrock of these new initiatives. Now, members of the House, the government is burdened this morning, members of the House, to prove to you how artificial intelligence and the adoption of it on our capital markets benefits us more than the risks that accompany artificial intelligence. Now, members of the House, indeed bona fide affiliates of the chamber, the opposition delegation rose to say that has the capital market indeed adopted these artificial intelligence? Members of the House, our consideration before the floor with this motion, members of the House, shows that we are planning on adopting this said artificial intelligence on our capital markets, citing other countries that are successfully yielding benefits from artificial intelligence, members of the House, on the capital markets. May the Good Samaritan do as wise. Now, members of the House, it would be unrude of me to go on further with my proposing argumentation without passing my simple benedictories before the House. Allow me to say, esteemed judges, honorable speaker, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, all diplomatic etiquette is highly observed. Now, members of the House, according to the International Monetary Fund, members of the House, it states, as I quote, AI could cause large changes in the market structure through the greater and more powerful use of algorithmic trading and novel trading and investment strategies. Members of the House, may the Good Samaritan please do likewise. Members of the House, what does this entail, members of the House? This entails that our investment markets, members of the House, investors will make much more clearer decisions, members of the House. With the use of artificial intelligence, members of the House, they'll be able to analyze data, members of the House. They'll be able to know what investments to trade in, members of the House. They'll be able, I'll engage you shortly, they'll be able to know what investments to trade in and what investments not to trade in. Members of the House, allow me to give you a simple example, members of the House. Imagine you want to invest in Zesco, members of the House. Imagine you want to invest maybe in Zanaco or Airtel shares, members of the House. What artificial intelligence will help you do is help you know how the market is going on in those stocks tradings, members of the House. I can engage you now.
Panel, the honorable member has told us that with artificial intelligence comes greater trading volume, but then and tells us that there's potential for greater profit. But what happens when there's loss? This means that greater loss. Our intention is to make more profit and not to make greater loss. AI is not secure, is not 100%. Therefore, it will make losses. What do you think?
Members of the House, indeed, bona fide affiliates of the chamber, we are not disputing to the fact that risks do accompany artificial intelligence, but we are here to debate whether benefits that we will get from this artificial intelligence outweighs the risk. Members of the House, according to the International Monetary Fund, members of the House, in an article, members of the House, titled "Advances in artificial intelligence and the implications for capital market activities, members of the House, so on risk monitoring, members of the House, that an introduction of artificial intelligence on our capital markets, members of the House, will reduce, members of the House, reduce the risk at which fraudulent activities are happening, the risk at which people might lose their money if these said artificial intelligence fails, members of the House. May the Good Samaritan do likewise. Members of the House, indeed bona fide affiliates, to show that I'm a speaker that speaks from the confines of debate and not outside, allow me to quote from the Africa Capitals Market Report of 2025, members of the House, which states, as I quote, "Artificial intelligence significantly enhances market efficiency by increasing uniformity, stock price movements in response to new information." Now, members of the House, furthermore, they put it this way: interaction between artificial intelligence and the information of the environment varies and will amplify the effect of high analysis and rigorous audits, strong investor attention, leading to greater market synchronization. May the Good Samaritan do likewise. Members of the House, moving further in my argument, members of the House, artificial intelligence, as the side opposition has already stated, that it has certain risks that might cause people to lose money. Members of the House, if we use these AI tools in our capital market, members of the House, we are setting guardrails, members of the House, and this is what the capital market needs. It needs guardrails. It needs to protect the money of people that are investing in said capital markets. Members of the House, the capital market thrives on three things, members of the House. It thrives on data, it thrives on speed, and it thrives on trust. Members of the House, artificial intelligence is providing the necessary data for investors to invest. What are we doing as I engage you?
Now, the honorable member tells us that AI in its nature brings to the House a situation in which brings to the House a situation in which AI has these risks. Can you then prove to us how these risks are so minimal that you are willing to lose people's pension funds for the sake of something that is experimental in our country?
Members of the House, indeed, bona fide affiliates of the chamber, the said AI tools that will bring risk can be the said
Your
AI
time is
tools
up,
that can be
honorable
used.
member.
20 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds it is.
Thank you so much, members of the House. Allow me to quote the International Monetary Fund, members of the House, which shows that risk reporting and dashboarders, members of the House, with AI support, members of the House, it will make it much more easier for us to ascertain the risks that the markets might have, members of the House. May the Good Samaritan do likewise. Members of the House, today's argumentation is not whether one is bad or one is good.
Your
It
time
is
is
whether
up.
one benefits the other
Your
or
time is
one
up, honorable
risks the
member.
other. Thank you.
The Deputy Prime Minister, another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, we now give the floor to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for your call. And indeed, shall I simply say, all protocol is highly and sincerely observed. Now, panel, the motion under discussion this morning is calling us to weigh the cost of implementation of artificial intelligence versus the benefits. As the opposition, we believe that the benefits of artificial intelligence do not outweigh the costs. Why? Because in the context of Zambia, this is where our pension funds are held. This is where our life savings are held. Therefore, this motion is asking us, do the risk that artificial intelligence poses to our life savings, our life work, do these risks really outweigh the potential benefits? And as the opposition, we say no. Now, panel, it will interest this House to note that artificial intelligence, in its very nature, in the way that it is trained on information from the past. Panel, you should understand that according to what they have told us, there are other countries that have used artificial intelligence in their markets. But what they have used, the information they've used to train their capital markets, their artificial intelligence in these capital markets, is information based off of how prices acted in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, what they have not trained these AI models to use. Allowed.
Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, when the wheel was created, we didn't just move from using it on a cart straight to the car. No, there were steps and processes. In a similar way, AI is being integrated slowly in these different countries that are using AI in their capital markets. Effectively, cautionarily, also governance is being put in place for regulation. So does the current speaker
Exactly. It is these cautious uses that we're bringing to this house and the risks that it has presented. Allow me to proceed and show you the risk that it presented. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're telling this house is the data that AI has been trained on is data such that it does not take into account why price is doing what it is doing. It only notices that price fluctuates upwards and downwards, but doesn't take into account why price has done that. Allow me, ladies, Good Samaritan, please pass this to the judges. This, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm passing to the judges is a study that was conducted at the beginning of this year when the United States had a, let's call it geopolitical tension with the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, that study has shows to this house that artificial intelligence failed to predict accurately the effect of that geopolitical tension. Now, panel, if we use artificial intelligence in this house today on our capital markets, what it's telling us is if there is adverse geopolitical, allow me to finish my case, if there is adverse geopolitical events on the markets, artificial intelligence will not take that into account. What that's telling me and you is that if AI predicts that whatever is going to happen in the market goes in the wrong way, me and you as the investor begin to lose our investment. Our investment is our pension. Our investment is our life savings. We cannot risk our life savings based off of AI that doesn't have a holistic approach into its analysis. Engaged.
Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, the current honorable has mentioned something that's important. AI, it's a war. Now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, only we as humans are able to account for our own actions. How do we expect a program that we programmed to learn to predict our feelings, our emotions, that bad decisions such as war?
That is exactly our point, panel. Because AI cannot predict wars, and wars affects what happens on the capital markets, if the tool we use to help us navigate the capital markets cannot predict these things, then it is fundamentally flawed. Panel, allow me to proceed. Artificial intelligence is also it makes accountability almost impossible. You see, panel, accountability is required when manipulation occurs and when losses are incurred in the market. However, you cannot take an artificial intelligence program to court. So in this case, we're asking ourselves, who do we hold accountable if AI fails? Are we going to hold accountable the programmer? Perhaps we hold accountable SEC for allowing it to be on our capital markets. Perhaps we're going to hold accountable the investor that has used this artificial intelligence. What we're telling this house is because there's no answer that we can get from artificial intelligence panel, we cannot then trust it. The risk it provides to this house is too great for us to bear. Panel, the people that have created...
Your time is up.
10 seconds to summarize.
10 seconds.
Sorry, 20. Good Samaritan, pass this on to the judges. Panel, what I have handed over to the judges, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence that is showing us that even though the people that create AI cannot tell you the reasoning behind why AI has done what it has done. The reasoning, the logic that AI is using cannot be explained. So we are saying, if we use something that cannot be explained to ourselves, when we have losses, I beg to rest my case by saying, we can't trust it. Thank you.
What a submission, the deputy leader of the opposition. For those of you that have just joined us, this is a debate between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia, in which the former is the government and the latter is the opposition. We proceed with the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, the member of government is coming forward.
A foolish man once walked into the library and mistaken silence for wisdom. Similarly, the opposition has mistaken knowledge for understanding. Like George Orwell once said, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Similarly, I say to this house, all human beings have an intellect, but some human beings sharpen their intellect. Now, members of the House and bona fide affiliates, the motion under fundamental scrutiny stipulates, as I articulate, this House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in capital market outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that the benefits are more weightier. I repeat, they are more weightier than the risk associated with its adoption. Why am I saying this? Ladies and gentlemen, my argument is based on two strong points. The use of artificial intelligence in capital market has improved risk management. What do I mean by this? Allow me to paint a simple picture. Back in the past, where there was no weather predicting machine, was a wise village headman whose simple task was to stare at the clouds cautiously and cautiously look and test the soil for its moisture, which then gave him enough information to predict that a flood is coming. And he would audaciously tell his village mates that prepare, a flood is coming. Similarly, what we are saying is that artificial intelligence in the capital market is like this village man that is analyzing data fastly, efficiently, and warning us. Allow me to finish. And warning us. And this benefit enables us to see the risk from a mile away.
Thank you very much. Is the member of government aware that AI bases its decision of past events? So it doesn't account for, as our second speaker highlighted, the modern events and a lot of factors that will affect the market currently. So we'd be able to make accurate predictions given the variations that come with it.
Thank you for that. Allow me to paint another scenario. A man seated in front of 20 monitors in an AI machine that is able to analyze faster, more efficiently, and pick up each and everything. Seated in front of those 20 machines, who is going to do their job better? Clearly it's the AI, because it is able to critically analyze a lot of data within a short period of time, as compared to one human being who is going to make wrong decisions just looking at... Not allowed. Allow me to finish. Human beings, ladies and gentlemen, have mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposition have said that AIs cannot predict wars. But allow me to quote from the Bible, Adam and Eve. Eve met a serpent, spoke to the serpent, and agreed with the serpent. She did not have enough capacity to reason. Now, put AI in that situation. AI that has enough capacity to reason, to detect, and see the deception from the serpent a mile away. If AI was in that situation, we will not be here, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to continue.
May the speaker pause? Interjection allowed.
Thank you very much. Side government, I think number one, it would be very fundamental for us to tell you that which type of AI you want to use on the capital markets so that we understand what you're talking about. Number two, you said with data, you said with processing things at a faster rate, that's how AI works. But then you need to understand the more it does that, you find that AI continuously makes mistakes. And how will you actually curb that risk that comes? Because we see company crashes because of that.
Had the opposition cared enough to listen and let me finish my speech, they would have had their answer to the POI. Let me answer them now. Ladies and gentlemen, with me is an article from ESMA that stipulates, as I articulate, ESMA will focus on enhancing data capabilities, promoting innovation to improve efficiency, transparency within the EU financial market, continuing development of these same ESA data platforms, engaging various data sources, exposing dashboards and analytics to its users, hence improving risk monitoring, supervision. And they sum up saying, exploring AI-powered tools for supervision, including anomaly detection and market abuse prevention. What are they telling us? They are telling us that the current mode of AI version they are working on will be able to analyze data critically and predict based on that data it has analyzed. May the good Samaritan do likewise. Ladies and gentlemen, with me is another article.
Your time is up, Honorable. 20 seconds.
With me is another article from Nasdaq, which says that our advanced analytics operate with over 200 comparison scenario covering everything from cross-market production, cross-revenue trading, and our detection capabilities automatically adapt, changing to market condition and reducing false positives. This tells us that AI is able to adapt, change, and keep up with the times, and will be able to prevent risk. With this, I rest my case.
Thank you so much to the government member. For the members of staff of the Securities and Exchange Commission, I'm sure you have a picture, a very good picture of what you miss out when you don't watch these debates. So please do follow them. Ladies and gentlemen, we proceed with the debate. And at this point, we call upon the member of opposition.
Now, the motion states, this House believes that the benefits of AI in capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption. To the core of this motion, we are weighing the two, the benefits as well as the risks. The government has done a good job in telling us some of the benefits that AI has. For example, it is faster. That is true. We agree. The opposition is not oblivious to the fact that these benefits exist. However, what we are saying is this: the risks that are existing far outweigh the benefits, and that is what we will show you. Before I go any further, may all diplomatic etiquette be highly and respectively observed. Now, panel, let's picture this. AI requires financing. Only big companies are going to be able to finance artificial intelligence. And in so doing, panel, they are going to be able to set the prices on our capital markets. What does this do? This is going to increase operational costs, especially for the small businesses that are on these capital markets. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a phenomenon that is known as the superstar firm dynamic. Panel, we need to understand that allowing artificial intelligence on the capital market is advantaging the big players that are already on the market, while disadvantaging those companies that are of lesser quality. Allowed.
Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, it is a privilege that we are being hosted by the Securities and Exchange Commission, who ensure that there is regulation, members of the House, because they're going to ensure regulation, and they're also going to ensure that they work hand in hand with Bank of Zambia in order to ensure that there is no one taking advantage of anyone else using these tools. So meaning that those who want to take advantage are bad players, not the tool itself being a bad player.
Panel, the system is simple. We have to work with what are the laws that are governing artificial intelligence. Now, the Levelers reports the following. Zambia has no dedicated AI statute. AI is governed by a non-binding artificial intelligence strategy. The Good Samaritan do as wise. What this simply means is that there is no regulation for artificial intelligence directly. Worse off, in as much as there is no regulation, we also have no act that governs how artificial intelligence is going to be used on the capital market, which means it is up to me. Allowed.
So members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, today's argument is based on artificial intelligence and the capital market, not artificial intelligence independently. So meaning anything that's going to be introduced to the capital market has to go through the Securities and Exchange Commission, as well as the Bank of Zambia, as well as the Ministry of Finance before approval, members of the House. So may the current honorable please be in order.
And it comes back to this. What is the supreme law of the land? Yes, let's say they want to do something. If it goes against our laws, what then happens? A question for the government. Panel, to proceed, we need to understand that AI comes with risks of increased fraud. Panel, it has been proved by the AMF that the primary risks for associated with the use of AI in the financial sector include malicious use of AI, concerns of integrity of models and data, concentration of models, outsourcing, and third-party dependency. The Good Samaritan do as wise. What this simply means, especially for a country like Zambia that does not have data centers that we can heavily rely on, it means we are going to have to rely on third-party states. What does this simply mean? This simply means we are exposing our data to someone who potentially might use it against us. Panel, it is important to understand that Zambia is not in the capacity currently to ensure that artificial intelligence is effectively implemented into the capital markets because the risks are just too high. Panel, furthermore, AI is not just about the models alone. It is about what exactly does it come with. Quote says, AI is no longer solely a story about models, applications, and productivity. It is increasingly about physical infrastructure. The Good Samaritan do as wise. Panel, a country currently does not have that infrastructure that we would need to effectively implement artificial intelligence. Now, let us remember, this is going to ensure that we have AI. For sure, we will have AI, but it's going to be substandard. Are we really wanting to risk our pensions, our investments for something that is substandard on the market? I don't think so. Panel, let us think about our mothers and our fathers who have been working in government for so long. They have entrusted NAPSA, for example. They've entrusted insurance companies to invest for them on the capital market. Do we want something substandard controlling our market? I don't think so. So now, while we do welcome artificial intelligence, because of course we have to move with time, we need to realize that currently the risks far outweigh the benefit. Maybe when we deal with the regulations, when we deal with the legislation, when we have something, 30 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds on.
Thank you so much. When we deal with the inconsistencies that we already have as a developing nation, we can then come back and discuss that AI should be included in our market. But currently, our status quo suggests these risks are not worth it. I submit.
This is actually a very good debate. Ladies and gentlemen, the member of the opposition. We are down to the last two speakers. They will speak for 5 minutes. They will be immune to any interjections. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin with the whip of the government.
Like the 18-year-old phenomenon Kylian Mbappe that helped France win the 2018 World Cup, I, Kaimba Monsachanda, stand before you, strongly proposing to the motion under fundamental scrutiny, which states, as I quote, "This House believes that the benefits of artificial intelligence in capital markets outweigh the risks associated with its adoption." But before I go any further, allow me to offer my humble benedictions to the highly esteemed in this house of debate by simply saying, may all diplomatic etiquette be highly and simply observed. Now, under fundamental scrutiny, this motion is based on the word outweighing. So now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, the opposition has spent its entire debate trying to sell us fear. They have painted artificial intelligence as this mysterious black box that will crash our banks, steal our jobs, ruin our markets. But we as the government are here to stop that fear mongering. Now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, let's be clear. It is sacrosanct for all of us to understand the following statement. We are not choosing between a perfect world and a flawed world, but rather we have been tasked to decide between moving forward with a smart, regulated tool, or rather staying behind. Now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, we as the government are cognizant to the fact that artificial intelligence carries risks, and there are risks, members of the House, and these same risks are the premise of the opposition's argument. However, members of the House, if we use the opposition's logic to govern our country and to live our lives, it would mean that we would never drive cars because cars come with the risk of accidents. It means we would never use electricity because electricity comes with the risk of being electrocuted, members of the House. So, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, what have we done as human society in order to be able to survive risks when progress is an opportunity? We've done something very simple. We always come up with solutions. We innovate, members of the House. What did we do for our cars? We came up with road traffic rules. We came up with seat belts, members of the House. What did we do for electricity, members of the House? We came up with circuit breakers, members of the House. We put in safety measures, members of the House, to ensure that people do not get electrocuted. In a similar way, members of the House, as the government, we are data driven. We are going to learn from the market leaders, members of the House. When you use your phone right now to look at where the Lusaka Stock Exchange is in relation to all the other stock exchanges in the world, you are not going to find it in the top 60. Something needs to change, members of the House, and we as the government want to ensure we use the tools that are available to change this, members of the House. Now, members of the House, I'm going to break the opposition's spirit and argument using 3 pillars. The first pillar being growth. Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, when we look at artificial intelligence, yes, it's faster, but not only is it faster, but it is smarter. Members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, imagine you had 10,000 kwacha that you've been saving. You give it to me as a stockbroker. I'm going to make my decisions based on history as well. I'll look at the newspapers. I'll look at past reports as well. That is history, members of the House. In a similar sense, not only will I use this history, I'll also use my emotions, members of the House, based on the company that you want to invest in. If I think it's not a very good company, I will discourage you. But members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, artificial intelligence is going to analyze more than 10 years of data of that company, members of the House. It's going to analyze that company's decision-making patterns. It's going to analyze the global trends in relation to this company, members of the House, and it's going to make a better decision than Kayumba Mwasachanda ever could, members of the House. The second pillar is protection, members of the House. Yes, we are risk averse as the government. We do not want to fall into risk, members of the House. The opposition is talking about risk. Yes, we know that there is risk. For example, we have scammers now, members of the House. People are trying to steal your money in that mobile money account of yours, members of the House. But if you use artificial intelligence correctly, like the leading financial institutions globally, they've been able to save millions of dollars using AI fraud detection methods, members of the House, as already stated by one of my honorable members of the House. So this argument, members of the House, is actually very easy. It makes my job very, very easy that the opposition didn't do a very good job. Now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, the third thing that I would love to talk about, or rather the third pillar, members of the House, is fairness and inclusion. Now, members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, imagine this situation. I have a grandmother in Mukushi, members of the House. My grandmother has a small vegetable stand. She wants to expand her business, members of the House. If she goes to the bank, members of the House, it's very difficult for her to get a loan to expand her business. But if we're able to use artificial intelligence that can be able to monitor her mobile money transactions, her ability to keep up with payments, and also other markers, members of the House, like her ability to maintain her supply chain in her business, members of the House. This artificial intelligence is going to reliably assess my grandmother's ability to pay back, members of the House, as opposed to you, who's just going to see my grandmother coming with a chitenge, and you judge her and you say she won't be able to pay back, members of the House. So we're going to remove human emotion from the equation, members of the House. And members of the House and indeed bona fide intellectuals, to show that, can I please have 20 seconds to sum up my argument? May the Good Samaritan please pass out the articles that support everything that I've mentioned. In conclusion, members of the House, I would love to leave this August House with an analogy of fire. Members of the House, fire is dangerous, but we as humans evolved enough to use it to cook, to warm ourselves. In a similar way, AI may be dangerous, but we will find the regulations and we will build the strong foundation and regulation that will make us succeed using it. With these few points, I can Mwasachanda rest my case.
Ladies and gentlemen, in case you're just joining us on Facebook, in the room, the government has just concluded its submission, the government being represented by Levi Mwanawasa Medical University. And to conclude on behalf of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, the whip of the opposition. A round of applause for her as she comes forward.
Panel, we need to understand the nature of capital markets before we can consider bringing AI on the market. We need to understand that capital markets is the place that the government depends on. Through capital markets, the government can build roads, hospitals. We need to understand that through capital markets, investors can go there, invest their money, and secure their future. You need to understand the nature and the weight of these capital markets. Consider things such as businesses that are starting up can go on the capital markets believing that they'll have funding and they'll receive it. So when you look at the importance of the capital markets, you need to understand and ask yourself the question to say, are we willing to risk it by putting an experiment there? Certainly not. Panel, we are not against the benefits of AI. Today's debate is not about the importance of AI or the benefits of AI. No. Today's debate is asking us the question to say, are we willing to gamble with people's finances, with people's wealth, with people's servants, with an experiment? Panel, we need to realize the weight and what we benefit from the capital market. Now, panel, I have few issues with side government's argument. Firstly, you need to understand that AI is something that is costly. Where will Zambia receive the funding? Panel, the last speaker from side government told us to say that other people use detection fraud. Can Zambia afford detection fraud? Certainly not. Where will the data centers come from in order for us to achieve this? Panel, let us consider that. They said another thing. Panel, they come here and they tell us to say that they tell us to say that you need regulations, but currently where we are, there are no regulations for this AI. Panel. So how exactly, number one, are you going to hold them accountable in a situation where you made the laws? Panel, I gave an earlier statement to say that there have been situations where crashes were made based off the data that AI gave you. Now, panel, you need to understand this. When you talk about AI, it gives you information based off past data. These are things that happened in the past. So if the data that you fed AI was false, even in the modern world that you go to, it will always be false. Panel, aside from that, it does not consider geopolitical influence. We saw recently the war that happened also affected the capital markets. Could AI detect that? Certainly not. But did the capital market, was it affected? Yes, panel, it was. But with human beings, we're able to see what is currently happening on ground because you are able to relate with the current market. Those are things that you need to understand. Panel, they tell us that the risks that AI have, but they fail to address how AI is also going to help us curb those risks. We tell you on our side of the house to say that with AI comes increased risk of cybersecurity. Panel, in a country like Zambia, how are you going to deal with cybersecurity? Side government may say that we have the act, but then panel, the act is only there to penalize you after you commit that act. It does not prevent you or stop you from doing that particular thing. They fail to address how they'll deal with that challenge. Panel, we don't agree. We tell you that through AI, there is also increased fraud and manipulation. Panel, they fail to also address that risk. We need to be realistic in today's debate. Tell us things that are feasible. The argument to have AI in Zambia is something that is not feasible. Panel, you need to understand it is costly. Do we have the infrastructure? Certainly not. Panel, we tell you about the security risk. Can we handle that? Certainly not. Panel, allow me to read evidence here. It says, with AI on the capital markets comes increased market speed and volatility under stress, opacity and monitoring challenges, increased operational risks, and increased cyber and market manipulation. Panel, Good Samaritan. Panel, allow me to read another piece of information. AI agents cause first major financial trading incident, over $500 flash cash attributed to Agent Swarm. Good Samaritan, do as wise. Panel, imagine a situation where you believe that the capital markets is a place where you're going to make an income, is a place where your profits are going to be increased, only for it to become a place where you make the most losses of your life. Explain, panel, in a situation where you can lose over $500 million in a blink of an eye because you've decided to use an AI. We need to be realistic and feasible about the things that we choose to put on the capital markets. I already explained the importance of it. Panel, Good Samaritan, do as wise. End this. Panel, we need to be realistic when we're deciding to put things on the capital markets. We need to see where we're paying from. Today's debate is asking us to do a world analysis. They have the award where they talk about the benefits of AI. But then, panel, what did we expect from them? Number one, they were supposed to tell us exactly.
Your time is up.
20 seconds to sum up.
20
panel,
seconds it is.
Thank you. They were supposed to tell us exactly what AI they intend to use and also what measures are they going to put for the risk that will come, because the risk will be there. But then how best do you choose to handle those risks? Failure to do so, the benefits that they're talking about, we will not benefit from them. I rest my case.
The honorable member was not impressed that she ran out of time. A round of applause for her. We are done with the first semi-final between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia. Only one of these will make it to the final. In the spirit of unity, I'll allow them to shake hands as they leave the stage. A round of applause for both teams, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a good debate. We hope even the next one will be a good one. The next one is between the National Institute of Public Administration, NIPA, and Cavendish University. I'll allow the judges to deliberate for a few minutes as the placards are being changed as well for the next debate. Thank you. Okay. The second semi-final is between the National Institute of Public Administration and Cavendish University. At this point, let's welcome NIPA as they come up front. Quickly, please. As you come, please make sure you have a list of your names in the order that you'll be speaking. Also come with your timekeepers and those that will help you pass on evidence. NIPA will be facing Cavendish University. Cavendish, please make it to the front. A round of applause for them as they come forward. The timekeepers. Oh, okay, so evidence people on this side, timekeepers on that side. In this debate, the motion states as follows. This House believes that Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trusts over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle. And in this debate, NIPA is the government, whereas Cavendish University are the opposition. As is already known, only one of these will proceed to the final. I should also make mention that for late coming, NIPA will begin with a deduction of 10 points. So they will begin with -10. We begin the debate, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for the Prime Minister.
We are gathered here for social intercourse of intellect under fundamental scrutiny that clearly stipulates, and I quote, "This House believes that Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trust over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle." End of quote. Members of the auditorium, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that humble call. Respect to whom it is due, and all diplomatic etiquettes be highly and highly observed. In the House of Debate, House of Intellectuals, affiliates of this symposium, it is therefore in my humble jurisdiction as the Prime Minister of the government to deduce the motion by defining key terminologies to make it user-friendly to everyone in the August House. The following are the key terminologies. Members of the auditorium, we are talking about real estate investment trust. These are the companies or investment funds that own, manage, or finance income-generating real estate such as shopping malls, office building, as well as apartments. Members of the auditorium, we're talking about direct property ownership. This is the traditional method where an individual or company purchases land, houses, commercial buildings, or other real estate and owns the property outright, taking full responsibility and maintenance. And lastly, we're talking about an investment vehicle. This is a financial instrument or method through which individuals or institutions invest money with expectations of earning a return. Members of the auditorium, assembled House of Intellectuals, it is also in my humble jurisdiction as the Prime Minister of the government to give you the floor or the order of how we, the mighty government, are going to move. I, being the first speaker, will talk about real estate investment trust, make property investment more affordable and accessible. The second speaker will come in to cement more on lowering capital entry. Members of the auditorium, the third speaker will come in to on talking about builds trust and education. And lastly, the summarizer will come in to cement more on the points that will be raised by the government. And not only that, to rebut each and every misconception that will be rendered by the opposition. And lastly, to give recommendations on how we, the government, would want to tarry together with the opposition. Members of the auditorium, I being the first speaker, will talk about real estate investment trust builds or promotes it is accessible and affordable to the Zambian capital market. Members of the auditorium, our position as the government is not that direct ownership should be abolished, but rather our stance as the government is that direct ownership should our stance as the government is that real estate investment trust should be given greater policy support in that it is more accessible to the Zambia's economic market. Not only that, it is also accessible, and not only that, it is less risking and more beneficial to the Zambia's capital market. Members of the auditorium, allow me to give a report that was given by the Real Estate Investment Trust in Zambia, which says that real estate investment in Zambia are more than a new ticker on the exchange, that they are a tax efficient vehicle that delivers regular income, portfolio diversification, and improve market liquidity. May the good Samaritan do as wise. Members of the auditorium, we are talking about diversification aloud.
Honorable member, do you concede to the fact that REITs are subject to market illiquidity? Yes or no?
Members of the auditorium, we concede to that. However, they are of more liquidity. Members of the auditorium, allow me to proceed by talking about diversification. What do I mean by diversification, members of the auditorium? Real estate investment trust allows investors to participate with much smaller amount by purchasing units or shares. A report was given stating that these investment vehicles present an alluring chance for investors to expand the diversification of their portfolios beyond the traditional holdings of equities and bonds. We are aware, members of the term, that the opposition will talk about people will be allowed to live in their houses comfortably by owning direct property ownership. Members of the auditorium, the bone of contention under scrutiny is not about housing, but rather it is about investment vehicles. Members of the auditorium, Lusaka Stock Exchange gave a report stating that real estate investment trust is a regulated collective investment vehicle that invests primarily in income. 30 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds only.
Income generating real estate and enables persons to contribute monies worthy as considerations for the acquisition of rights or interest in a trust that is divided into units with the intention of earnings, profits, or income from real estate. May the good Samaritan do as wise. With these few and remarkable points, I rest my case.
The Prime Minister from the mighty government. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one thing I can tell you is standing in front of people to speak under the pressure of time is not easy. So as a speaker is coming forth or leaving the stage, please let's encourage them. Yes? Okay. So now we call upon the leader of the opposition. A round of applause for her.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that call. Now, all protocol is highly observed. Today, the motion states, as I quote, "This House believes Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trusts over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle." Now, I stand before you to lead the opposition against the motion that is not only economically reckless, but fundamentally detached from the cultural and structural realities of our nation. Now, Mr. Speaker, if I gave every person here 100,000 kwacha and I asked them to invest, they would invest differently. Some would buy a house, some would buy a land, some would invest in shares, while the other would invest in a business. Now, is this wrong? No. Why? Because investment is personal. And that is exactly where we are disagreeing with the government. The motion is asking Zambia to prioritize real estate investment trusts over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle. And as the opposition, we are rejecting this idea. not because real investment trusts are bad, but because one investment vehicle should never be prioritized over the other, especially when they're serving two complete different purposes. Allowed. Proceed.
Members of the auditorium, I would like the opposition to make us understand whether us saying prioritizing says that we should disown this other one, or it just says we should give an upper hand to this one and also maintaining the other one. Please make us understand.
You answered your own question. Why are we putting one on top of the other when two serve completely different purposes? I proceed. A real estate investment trust is simple. You see, many investors, they put their money together, and professional managers, they buy and manage properties. Then the rent is collected and is shared amongst investors as what? As dividends. Now, not only that, with direct property ownership, you buy the property yourself. You own it yourself. You control it yourself. You rent it out yourself. And you choose to live in it yourself. Or you put it as a collateral for a loan yourself. Now, Mr. Speaker, these are two complete different investments. Now, the government is telling us that rates are cheaper and they're easier to access. And we agree. But accessibility does not equal superiority. Now, the average Zambian, they are also saying that they may not afford housing. And we do acknowledge that. But should the solution be telling citizens to prioritize owning shares in someone else's property? Or should the solution be making ownership more affordable through better housing finance, through affordable mortgages, and policies that help Zambians own property? And we as the opposition are choosing the second option. And guess what? Mr. Hakainde Hichilema himself is choosing the second option, as he says housing shouldn't be a preserve of the rich only. President Hichilema says. Please pass this on to the judges. Now, the Bank of Zambia also says the survey recognizes that asset ownership is important for income generation and financial security. Now, what exactly does this show us, panel? That the ownership is not just an investment, but it is a security, and it is a stability and generational wealth. Now, let us go beyond Zambia. You see, Singapore has one of the most successful RIT markets in the world, yet it continues to promote home ownership. Why? Because it understands that rates and direct ownership serve different purposes, and they are both important. So one was never designed to replace the other. And that is exactly our position, panel. Now, we are not asking Zambia to reject REITs. We are asking Zambia not to prioritize them over direct
Your time
ownership.
is up.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are enjoying yourselves. We'd continue with the debate, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you joining us on Facebook, in case you're just joining, this is between NIPA, the National Institute of Public Administration, and Cavendish University, the former as the government and the latter as the opposition. We continue with the debate and we call upon the Deputy Prime Minister.
Confidence, courage, zeal, and enthusiasm is what a debater carries with him before standing in front of an audience. But only an intellectual, as that one coming from the National Institute of Public Administration, carries with him the brains as that of Einstein, the ruthless as that of Hitler, and the fearless as that of Nelson Mandela. Members of the auditorium, standing before you all, my name is Pochilufya Mwape, that boy from Mumbwa, trying to make a difference. Members of the auditorium, the motion under microscopic
Silence,
scrutiny
please.
stipulates as I articulate. This House believes Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trust over direct property ownership as investment. Members of the auditorium, it would be unwise for a wise debater of my caliber to continue without having to acknowledge the presence of the following people. The panel of the adjudicators, I salute you. In the interest of time, allow me to simply say, all protocol be highly and highly observed. Members of the auditorium, allow me to move to my first point, which is it boosts investor confidence. Members of the auditorium, 2 weeks ago, a company called Cypher Mining ran away and disappeared with billions of kwacha of the Zambian people. Imagine those people that invested a fortune into that investment. Members of the auditorium, I want to tell this August House that the people that lost their money, it is not that they are dumb and down, but simply because they were not taught on the right investment ventures to channel their money to members of the auditorium. Members of the auditorium, what exactly do I mean when I say it will boost investor confidence? Number one, members of the auditorium, we are seeing to say investing in real estate investment trust is backed up by the law. Members of the auditorium, allow me to quote from the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Securities Act, Act number 41 of 2016, Section 5, Article 5, Section 5, it states at 80% of the distributable income of the REIT for each accounting period shall be distributable to unity holders. May this be passed to the judges for allowed.
Honorable Member, since prime commercial REITs on the Lusaka Stock Exchange are structured in USD to hedge against inflation, does a local investor, if you're talking about investor confidence, who earns in kwacha, saves in kwacha, and invests in kwacha, face direct unhedged exchange rate risk? Yes or no?
Members of the auditorium, if we shall continue to tell ourselves to say we cannot manage, when exactly are we going to try out? Members of the auditorium, as of yesterday, one REIT is going at 0.09 US dollars. If converted to kwacha, that is 1 kwacha 0.65. Members of the auditorium, how many of you cannot manage to have that money? Members of the auditorium, as I was saying, this boosts investor confidence. As I was coming here to say, I saw arcades, members of the auditorium, I saw to say arcades is under real estate investment. So number two, you are investing in something which you are seeing physically. You are investing in something which is visible. Members of the auditorium, allow me to enlighten the opposition of some, allowed?
Oh, Deputy Prime Minister, from the proposing side, just because you saw arcades when coming here, does it mean you would trade your title deeds for a stock on the market?
Members of the auditorium, the opposition are missing one point. As the government, when we say we should prioritize real estate trust, we are not saying that we should do away with direct property ownership. Let me give you a practical example. My next point, members of the auditorium, is low income entry. We understand them as a private institution. Maybe they have the funds to make sure to say they invest in direct property ownership. But members of the auditorium, there are those members of the auditorium that do not have enough capital. Therefore, what are we saying as the government? What we are saying is that for that person that has low capital, let them first of all start by investing in real estate investment. This is an investment. 10 years, 20 years, that money is going to accumulate. And members of the auditorium, they are going to go and buy the very same direct property that they are telling us about, members of the auditorium. Members of the auditorium, allow me to quote from African Exchange. It states to say, REIT is going at 0.09. May this be passed to the judges for further verification. Therefore, members of the auditorium, Vision 2030 says that leaving no one behind. Why shouldn't you be considered an investor just because you have low capital, members of the auditorium? Therefore, what is it that we are saying? Members of the auditorium, just 20 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds only.
Just as we say we are the future leaders of tomorrow, we are the potential investors of tomorrow. Therefore, we have to be equipped with the right investment knowledge. I rest my case.
Oh, it's not the final. In case you're just joining us, this isn't the final. The intellect of Albert Einstein and the ruthlessness of who? Adolf Hitler. Are we safe though? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Deputy Prime Minister. In case you're just joining us, the National Institute of Public Administration is taking on last year's finalists, Cavendish University. Let's hear what the opposition has to say in response by calling upon the Deputy Opposition Leader.
Will I rhyme forthwith before the House to oppose the motion the course as I stipulate? This House believes that Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trust over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle. But before I base on my vast knowledge and intellectual capacity, it is with significance that I proceed with the recognition of the following people. The panel of adjudicators, allow me to simply say all protocol is highly observed. Now, panel, one thing that we're supposed to realize is the government should prioritize improving housing finance and access to mortgage and not replacing ownership with real estate investment trust. One thing that we are supposed to take note of is when you own a property, you are able to control who enters your property, you are able to control who becomes your tenant and how much you may be able to obtain from that property. Members of Augustus and House of Intellectuals, the team opposition comes here to talk about affordability. But one thing that we are supposed to realize is that reducing rates mortgage is something that we're supposed to put in front when you talk about affordability. By us reducing the rates mortgage, we are able to ensure that the ordinary citizens that their team government is so talking about are able to access the money that they need for them to be able to invest in these houses. Members of the House, something being cheap doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good investment. Secondly, allow me to make mention that property is an appreciating asset. One thing that we're supposed to realize, if you own a house in IBEX, you may be able to sell it twice the amount of money that you got it. Members of the House. Why? Because property itself is an appreciating asset. Members of Augustus and House of Intellectuals, the other thing that we are supposed to take note of is that property provides for tangible security. Members of Augustus and House of Intellectuals, they come here and talk about diversification. Allowed, please.
Members of the auditorium, as the government, we are providing a solution. Should you advise someone to go and build a house in Shangombo or come and invest in arcades where the location matters in business? Arcades will have more clients compared to your house in Shangombo.
Bona fide and dignified affiliates of the session, allow me to pose this question to the audience. Ladies, are you going to accept a man who's going to come here to bring your bride price, telling you that he owns houses? Or are you going to accept someone who's going to tell you that I own 0.0002 shares in Burnley Kids? Now, allow me to proceed. Now, bona fide and dignified affiliates of the session, one thing that we are supposed to realize is that depending on the stock market, the market fluctuates itself. Depending on the stock market, the market fluctuates itself. Hence, most of these real estate investment trusts may either incur a loss or a profit. The opposing delegation, the government, comes here to talk about how members of the House, they are going to say how they are eliminating the risk. But one thing we're supposed to realize is that the risk is not eliminated. The risk is only changed. What does it change to? It changed into management risk, into stock risk, into government risk, and into dividend risk. Now, members of the August Center Hunt of Intellectuals, the other thing that we are supposed to take note of is that in case of emergencies, these real estate investment trusts provide for a certain period of time in which you may be able to obtain your return. Now, members of the House, on the other hand, if you own a house, members of the House, you're able to get the money that the tenant is paying every single month. Are we supposed to wait for 2 years or 6 months for you to be able to get your return, not even knowing whether it's going to come as a profit or a loss? Now, may the good Samaritan please passes on to the judges for further clarity. Bona fide and dignified affiliates of the session. The team government comes here and talks about diversification. One thing that we are supposed to realize is that diversification does not need to replace control. In as much as accessibility is important, accessibility without control is irrelevant. Now, members of the August House and House of Intellectuals, one thing that we are saying and our stance as the team opposition is that let Zambia be part of the owning members of the House, not the investments alone. The other thing that we are supposed to take note of is that in as much as we may be investing in these foreign entities, what they're doing is they're using our own money and developing their own countries. But at the end of the day, we are just people that own a share of our own land. Now, members of August and House of Intellectuals, allow me to conclude by saying that we do not want to feel like we are part of it. We want to feel that we own and lead. With these few points,
May the speaker pause? Interjection allowed.
Members of the auditorium, the speaker has just told us to say when we invest, they are going to develop their countries. Members of the auditorium, the initials here is REIZ, which means Real Estate Investment Zambia. So which countries are they going to develop? If we are developing our own country.
Bona fide and dignified affiliates of the session, can you please read with me? This House believes that Zambia should prioritize...
Time is up. Conclude.
With these few points, as you read the motion, I submit.
What a semi-final this is turning out to be. But ladies, that question. Okay, no, let's continue. I bet the government has something to say in response, so let's call upon the member of government to come and give her response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for that elaborate call. Before I proceed, allow me to give my regards to the following people. To the panel judges, I bow. To the timekeepers, I salute. Due to the interest of time, allow me to say our protocol has been highly and highly recognized. Members of the symposium, the bond of contention today clearly states and articulate. This House believes Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trust over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle. Members of the symposium, the reason why we as a government are saying we should prioritize real estate investment trust is number one, it's because of diversification and less risk. Members of the symposium, when we are talking about diversification, we are saying that just with one share, you are able to have access to shares not only in the industrial area, you are going to have proper shares in commercial, residential, as well as in the agricultural land. Members of this symposium, there is guarantee to say that when you invest in real estate investment trust, you are going to have high returns. What do I say? Members of this symposium, allow me to quote from a quote which was published by the Real Estate Investment Zambia POC. Here the figures clearly state to say that the return on investment for each share that we invest in this real estate, you are guaranteed that it's not going to be turned a loss. That we have heard the opposition saying that it is volatile to exchange rate. Members of this symposium, we are a government that ensures that our exchange rate allowed.
Honorable Member, 60 to 80% of Zambia's landmark is structurally in customary tenure. By prioritizing rates, are you not legally and economically not franchising rural Zambia, whose wealth is locked into customary land they do not have access to as rates? Thank you. Please answer that.
Members of this symposium, it is so surprising that the opposition delegation is not even highlighted about what is currently happening in the year 2026. Allow me to shock them with figures because figures don't lie. Members of this symposium, this year, according to the Zambia Business Times, it was highlighted that in the first quarter of 2026, about 79.6 million US dollars, not kwacha. When we convert that, how much is it in Zambian kwacha? Was converted or maybe was yielded into the Zambian economy from the real estate investment trust. So what is the opposition talking about? May the good Samaritan do as wise. Members of this symposium, as if not enough, allow me to quote again from the Real Estate Investment Trust statistics that clearly shows, clearly shows to say that the kwacha from the year 2019 to 2024 was stabilized through this investment vehicle called the Real Estate Investment Trust. May the good Samaritan do as wise. Allowed.
Honorable Member, do you concede to the fact that according to the Securities Exchange guidelines, under qualifications for an REIT, at least 80% of the REIT revenue has to be generated from rent and investment income? Which rent we're talking about is in kwacha, yes or no?
The answer is no. Members of this symposium, allow me. The opposition was busy telling us that the investment trust is volatile to the exchange rate. Allow me to shock them with some facts because we are talking about facts and not assumptions. Allow me to quote from, again, the Real Estate Investment Trust, which clearly states, and I quote, to say that it will enjoy preferential tax treatment since it is exempted from corporate taxes. Members of this symposium, which gives a guarantee to each and every Zambian citizen who's investing, say there will be a high return on their investment. And from there, that's when they can go and invest in their private ownership property. After, first of all, taking a step of investing in the real estate investment trust, may the Good Samaritan do as wise. Members of this symposium, there is a mandate of the Real Estate Investment Trust, which is, first of all, that's why we said it's a matter of diversification. When we talk about diversification, we are not putting our eggs just in one basket, such that 20 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds it is.
We are not putting all our eggs in one basket. Rather, we are getting our eggs and we are putting them in different shapes of income baskets, so that at the end of the day, due to the economies of scale, our citizens are going to have our high return on investments. I rest my case.
What a submission, ladies and gentlemen. The government member, a round of applause for her. This is a very good semi-final. I wouldn't want to be a judge. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, let's please welcome the member of opposition to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for that honorable call. May I simply say, all protocol is highly observed. I must state really that legal advice is very expensive nowadays, but fortunate for us today, I'm offering pro bono services. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you exactly why it is legally impossible for REITs to be the primary investment vehicle. Ladies and gentlemen, court is now in session. Countrymen and women, ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative in today's debate to understand that the legal framework is the foundation of every economic transformation. And I'll draw deep on that legal aspect, ladies and gentlemen. It is imperative to understand in today's motion that REITs operate under a limiting legal structure. What do I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, allow me to point out that the evidence that was submitted by the Deputy Prime Minister from the opposition was not the Securities Act, it was the Security Guidelines of 2020. That was a misquote from the government. Ladies and gentlemen, to submit the same document, allow me to quote that clause 2.1 of the same document states that the only legally allowed RIT to operate in Zambia are the income real estate investment trust. What does this really mean, ladies and gentlemen? This means that the RITs in Zambia can only invest in property that is already established and developed. We are talking of malls, which he already explained, which we agree with. He's talking about corporate offices. But what does that say, ladies and gentlemen? It says that our RITs will be limited, and that is because they are limited by this regulation. And in that in itself, we are saying that this is not enough to prioritize them as our investment vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a effusive and large and huge number of undeveloped land in Zambia. Why don't they do that? Why don't they decide to invest in other undeveloped land? Yes, please. Yes.
Members of the editorial, is the current speaker that in the annual report given by the Real Estate Investment Trust in 2024 says that as of 2024, 144% from 65.3 million was raised to 576.5 million, of which this money was also used in Zambia's economic development. Is the current speaker aware of that? Yes or no?
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, he didn't give us where that money was raised from. And secondly, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to point out the fact that we have only one RIT on the Zambian market. Is that enough to accommodate every Zambian and make it a priority for an investment vehicle? The answer is simply what? No. Ladies and gentlemen, forging ahead with my articulation, article or rather clause, please hold your horses. Article 7.1.4 of the guidelines simply states that they are prohibited from investing in vacant properties and participating in property development. Now, if these RITs are limited by the regulations, do you think they are suitable or rather a primary investment option for us, for our country? Definitely, I don't think so. Proceeding ahead
Speaker,
with my
pause.
articulation.
Thank you so much. My question to the speaker, would you rather the Chinese government use the same initiative and take over our economy, or because you want to continue with the same mandate of going through the private property investment, are you willing to put the economy at risk, or because you don't want us to use the same initiative to do industrialization and commercialization at the same place?
Much obliged. I would prefer to have my name on a title deed in my name in Zambia. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, forging ahead with my articulation, allow me to state that the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, under Article 16, clearly stipulates and prohibits the deprivation of land. Ladies and gentlemen, this goes clearly to tell you how important this Constitution takes land matters. As if that is not enough, Section 33 of the Lands and Deeds Act clearly states that the title deeds is an evidence of clear land ownership. Please pass this information to the judges for further analysis. Further, this was substantiated by the case of Anti-Corruption Commission versus Bennett Development Corporation of the Supreme Court of Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to state that indeed it is good to have ambition, but ambition that beats logic is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. We all want profits at the end of the day, but when profits are placed above security, ladies and gentlemen, your thinking capacity begins to be questioned. As if that is not enough, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, allow me to state that good parenting does one thing and one thing good. It plans for their future, and not only for their future, but for the future
Your
of their...
time is up.
20 seconds to conclude.
20 seconds.
Good parenting does one thing and one thing alone. It plans for its future and the future of their children. So allow me to observe a moment of silence for those parents that are 6 feet underground but left a standing roof for their children because they did not choose to gamble
Your
on
time
the
is
stock
up.
exchange. Thank you.
This is a great debate. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Those that are joining us on Facebook, as everyone else knows, this isn't the final. It's just the second semi-final. Ladies and gentlemen, only one of these teams will proceed to the final. To complete this debate, let's allow the whips to conclude their submissions for their sides, and we begin with the whip of the government.
We are a third world generation not because we have chosen to be, but because the mighty opposition have decided to mislead this august house into an amiss phantasmagory, despondence, and melancholy. Respect to whom it is due and all diplomatic etiquette be highly observed. The motion under microscopic scrutiny clearly states as articulate. This house believes that Zambia should prioritize real estate investment trust over direct property ownership as an investment vehicle. End of quotation. The question at hand is as an investment vehicle, end of quotation. Members of the auditorium, it is therefore my humble obligation as senior most government official to rebut on each and every misconception made by the opposition and therefore render recommendations as we, the position of we the mighty government, to this august house. Members of the auditorium, the opposition earlier through their first speaker, they talked about culture norms in that particular perspective. We the mighty government are not denying the fact to say that indeed we need to have an aspect of people way back, even this time around, they have been prioritizing basically or making sure to say that they have good houses. But what we are saying as the government is that, members of the auditorium, if at all we prioritize the real estate investment trust, we are going to make sure to say that even a parent out there who is in Shangombo, a youth who is there in Kasempa, as well as members of the auditorium, a student who is there in Northwestern, they will be able to invest, also members of the auditorium, and have a hand in these shares assembled assembled intellectuals, members of the auditorium. As the government, we are more with regards to us basically investing in our country. If other countries, members of the auditorium, are able to do it, why not we, the government of Zambia, not bringing it in our country? Vision 2030, as my current speaker earlier alluded, is that leaving no one behind is our notion as a country. Assembled intellectuals. Another thing that they talked about, members of the auditorium, we heard their third speaker talking about an aspect of, an individual enjoying their title being honored by them, members of the auditorium. But one thing that I have to make mention to this August House is that we also have what we call equitable title, land that is not on title, assembled intellectuals, and all those things as the government, we're also prioritizing them. We're not denying the fact to say that indeed all these things are supposed to be put in place. But what we're saying as the government is that we also need, members of the auditorium, to close the gap with regards to an aspect of investments. That's our main concern as the government. Members of the auditorium, we are also talking about an aspect of lowering the capital entry in that perspective. My speaker alluded to an aspect and gave figures with regards to how much an individual is supposed to invest in that particular perspective. 0.90 US dollars is not that much, assembled intellectuals. Assembled intellectuals, allow me to quote from Financial Insight Zambia, and I quote, Banda noted that Zambia's REITs journey is not only about unlocking real estate value, but also about creating a new asset class that broadens participation in the country's capital markets. In that particular perspective, members of the auditorium, they quoted about the constitution, which also guarantees the right of participation. And assembled intellectual, for us standing here as the government, also calling upon our people in the nation to participate in terms of them investing, members of the auditorium, it is not a bad thing. The President Hakainde Hichilema, assembled intellectuals, has always invited the Zambian people on the table and encouraged them to invest, that one day what they're investing in, it is going to reap. May the Good Samaritan pass this to the judges for further verification. Assembled intellectuals, members of the auditorium, allow me to quote from the Real Estate Investment Zambia PLC, and I quote, REITs by nature will allow us to access a wider pool of potential investors, including institutional funds, pension funds, foreign and individual investors seeking exposure to real estate assets. Members of the auditorium, may the Good Samaritan pass this to the judges for further verification. Assembled intellectuals, members of the auditorium, my other speaker talks about the boost investor confidence in that particular perspective. If at all we want to attract investors as a nation, and that is the way forward that we need, that indeed our nation is bettered in that regard, members of the auditorium, we need to put all these things in place. There is what we call trends in accumulation, and if at all other countries and they're meeting the standards of what is happening in that particular perspective, it is also our core mandate as a nation, and that is why we are concerned as the government also, that indeed we're not supposed only to step one leg aside, but we are also supposed, members of the auditorium, to use our third lens to see that indeed these things are going to benefit our country in that particular perspective. Now, allow me to make mention to say, members of the auditorium, it is like you are telling an individual who is in Dudumwezi that they don't want electricity. The moment you take electricity there, they shun away from it. But what we want as the government is to make sure to say we lighten up Zambia in investment. Assembled intellectuals, members of the auditorium, we have heard the submissions of the opposition. Ours is to recommend that indeed each and every person reaps with regards to the shares. And we call upon all the government officials and every person at large as a Zambian that we join hands, that the Zambia we want, and not leaving anyone behind. May God bless me, may God bless you, and may God bless Mother Zambia. Shalom.
Yeah, in most cases, people forget themselves when it comes to blessings. They'll just say, God bless you, but he didn't forget. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the whip of the government. And now to close this debate, let's allow the whip of the opposition to seal the deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol is observed. Now, the government's role was supposed to come, was them coming here to tell us the social, political, economic, and moral reasons as to why we should specify in our EITs and prioritize them over direct property ownership, which they have failed to do so. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you why that has been a failure. Firstly, their arguments have been centered around diversification, accessibility, affordability, and lower capital entry. Now, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for REITs to be registered and to be listed, primarily they need to have capital of ZMW 50 million kwacha. Can you imagine that? And we're talking about lowered capital entry. This means once they have been given the opportunity to be listed on the stock exchange, they still come with high rates, high incomes, high taxes, and these investors are still prone to one major thing that all investors are prone to, that is investment risk. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that these real investment trusts, they work primarily on rental yields, and the fact that they invest into commercial buildings that are already built within Zambia, that is a great limitation in itself, because our dependency on rates is heavily dependent on kwacha, not in USD. Now we must understand, secondly, what is diversification? Diversification is a realization that priority does not exist. We must exist with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things in consistency and are together. That is why we are saying that we must not prioritize real estate investment trusts over direct property ownership, because both methods are methods of investing. They are both investment vehicles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we must also understand that what is affordability? Affordability sometimes doesn't mean getting something cheaper. Sometimes it's about the eventual long run and the eventual benefits you gain out of it. Remember, if you buy a unit or a share at 0.05 compound interest in 2 years, it does not equate to the value of a property as it appreciates in 2 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our argument, and that is why we're pushing for direct property ownership to work hand in hand with other methods of investment vehicles. Now, we also go to the point of accessibility. Accessibility goes to the point of diversification as well. In as much as REITs are there, there is property transfer tax. There is property transfer itself. People can also buy properties the same way they can buy shares. That's why we are also saying that do not take priority of one thing over the other. You can make them work together. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the argument that was to be proposed by the government failed, and let us tell you why, socially, politically, economically, and morally, why this is not feasible, as the legal argument has already been given. Now, socially, let us begin with the argument that there is the actual deprivation of Zambian citizens having asset ownership. Remember, we as Zambians in our own land do not want to be renters. We want to be landlords. And the fact that we want to invest into real investment trust, we are giving one big entity to be the major controller of all of our holdings when it comes to one single property. That means we do not have a say, but we want to make money out of someone's land. Is that fair, ladies and gentlemen? The answer is no. Secondly, we must understand that title deeds that are guaranteed for under the Lands and Deeds Registry Act, that are protected for as a right under the Constitution under Article 16, that we as Zambians under Article 8 also heavily state that we as Zambians require national unity, we require national community, we require grounds to operate in, are being given to corporate business. Is that morally justifiable to you that we give private land that we have acquired through our hard work as Zambians to commercial businesses to earn out of them, not earn out of them as landowners, but earn out of them as investors? That is not fair, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let us talk about the removal of safety by the commodification of human shelter. Remember, when a share depreciates, it's not a depreciation of shelter. It's not a depreciation just of a share. It's you not acquiring shelter. When a share is non-existent and it's on paper, you cannot access it. Now also, politically, remember, our president's office holds perpetuity. It holds land in perpetuity. Now, if we offer the opportunity of big commercial businesses that have at least a minimum of 50 million kwacha to occupy this land, we are basically allowing the president to sell off land. Now, we cannot sell off land because he is the trustee of these Zambians. He is also the trustee of what we need. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me go back to our propositions argument and tell you why we are to recommend why we are going to what we want to recommend. Number one, if shares are the issue or if it's the digitalization, we require the digitalization of land title deeds according to the National Titling Program. 20 seconds to sum up.
20 seconds.
Secondly, we also prefer the lowering of property transfer tax to 2.5 rather than 5% for first-time buyers instead of actually investing into shares that are non-tangible and eventually cause you harm. And in conclusion, let us introduce land banks. Remember, Zambians are not renters. We are land owners. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the second semi-final has come to an end, and I must say, what a debate. A round of applause for both teams. As usual, in the spirit of unity, the two teams will shake hands as they leave the stage. Yeah, I could hear them teasing each other about the the pro bono services that were rendered today. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the debate between National Institute of Public Administration and Cavendish University will face the winners between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia. As has already been stated, only one institution gets the right to represent Lusaka province at the nationals to be held at the end of the year. So at this point, we'll wait for the judges, and once the results are in, we'll know what's next. Thank you.
Beware. Beware. Scammers are getting smarter, and with mobile money and digital payments, it's easier than ever to fall for a fake deal. Don't get caught. Before you send money or invest, make sure you're dealing with a licensed financial service provider. Protect your money. Stay alert. Be a smart investor. This message is brought to you by
John, I think we have talked about this. Tell those people to get that $4 million, put it in the $30 million account. That's where I want that money to be. But where is the problem? We deliver the goods as agreed.
They say a man is supposed to protect his family, provide, secure their future.
We're doing this in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. From 2 to 4.
I was supposed to buy my family a house, a place we could finally call home.
Of course, if you go beyond 200, we're talking 1 week.
Oh, don't tell me. You'll make me
my business.
You'll make me run around and find that money and make sure that these things. Money is money.
I served every kwacha for years and sacrificing, but now it's all gone. I should have known better. I trusted someone I didn't fully understand. Went for the quick fix, and now I'm paying the price.
Chanda, you know what your dad was saying this morning before he left? He was saying, oh, I'm very excited. I'm going to run that 100 meters. You know the one for the parents at your school? He was like, I'm going to win.
You should just sit down. He's too old for that.
Oh. You want me to tell him? Okay. People are not loyal. Dad is here.
Oh yeah, and that I can't wait to move into the new house because I already started making plans and I told all my friends about it.
I can't tell her. How do I explain that I lost everything? The house, our future. I failed them all. I have to fix this. I can't give up. There has to be a way. Next time, I will check the facts and trust the right people. I thought my story ended when I lost everything. But maybe this is just the beginning.
A good investor understands that the social media influencers cannot understand the personal circumstances of their followers. So, their recommendation could not be suitable.
Make your money
in 2 days.
Nati, make your money
In 2 days.
Now, as my last time peni nabwera pano nakuuzani kuti kuli mopangira ndalama. You invest the money and people give you back the money. Now, these are papers yama plot of your friends from the other market. Mumvera market. Now, imwe na imwe mukatipasa ife ndalama, we will invest the money. Upon investing the money, we will give you back some more money. You, me, chingankare manje wosiana, life yosianako. Mumveraka? That's why even me have come here. Bwerani to my offices yatu, we will change your life. Munga mweta kamira, make your money
in 2 days.
Thank you very much. Now, with that said, number as mine ni 0973.
It is all good.
Chani.
Even a Moses in my tank, Moses.
Tenga chani, Lydia. What do you mean? Dalamazato.
Everything is good.
Lydia.
Once. Hold on.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
Where? In the network.
The number you dialed is not a working number.
Once
Please
a
check the number and dial again.
chairman says, "Must somewhere and top apart." Better go there. I never wish.
I worked every day.
Mary. Mary. Hey. What are you Sorry, what if you're you know? I'm the fuck home,
Okay. Every day, saving kwacha by kwacha, and now it's gone.
Oh.
How do I tell my family that I have nothing left?
Nishinga.
Then kwacha. Yes.
You are stronger than you think, Mary.
Ladies and gentlemen, those seated at the back, I would ask that you join us for the announcement of the results. Quickly, please, we are running out of time. I must admit that both semi-finals were very good semi-finals, enjoyable. All teams put effort into their preparation. So, as usual, we will begin with the two best speakers from each debate, and then we will go to the announcement of the results. Can I have your attention, please? Thank you. In the semi-final between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia, the following are the best speakers, beginning with the second best speaker. And please, let's, as we agreed, encourage, let's make some noise. So, a massive round of applause for Kayimba Chanda. Where's Kayimba? That's Kayimba Chanda over there. Congratulations. And the best speaker, Mwanza Emmanuel. Congratulations to you, Emmanuel. In the debate between the National Institute of Public Administration and Cavendish University, the second best speaker, Fatima Umaji. I can see she's debating whether to put herself in the frame or not. The best speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Mwape. You judges, you are endorsing Adolf Hitler in Zambia. Okay, the announcement of the results. The winners of these semi-finals will proceed to face each other in the final. I like that. Please do it again. Okay, in the debate between Levi Mwanawasa Medical University and the University of Zambia, one institution scored 663. The other institution scored 677. Ladies and gentlemen, the first finalist for the year 2026 in these Lusaka province provincial qualifiers. Some noise for the University of Zambia. Congratulations to Unza, but let's also give a round of applause to Levi Mwanawasa for a fight well fought. Let's be together. In the second semi-final between the National Institute of Public Administration and Cavendish University. Please let's take into consideration that for late coming, NIPA was beginning with a deduction of 10 points. And so these results will reflect that deduction. One institution scored 681. The other institution scored 753. Ladies and gentlemen, the second institution to make it to the final to face the University of Zambia. A round of applause for Cavendish University. Ladies and gentlemen, this therefore means that the University of Zambia will face Cavendish University. We will proceed as follows. Let's be together. We will proceed as follows. Right about now, we will conduct a coin toss for the selection of the sides, and the teams will be given 15 minutes to prepare for the final. Only 15 minutes. So may I quickly have a representative from Cavendish University and from the University of Zambia for the coin toss. Please also ensure that as you come forward, you have already agreed on which side you would want for the final.
Incredible life ile sana totela sana Lisancho Woma bonse babila lokuta chapo Kapeka peka bumba komanda wa mshiri nyantu kapo Wengi la pati li muncho ngefula panganda ya kula tano Femini na koba titu bakwanisha nishi English Telu ni bokosa Ni bolimba Malesi nga baba na likuchi la pamoja.
So for this debate, Cavendish University will be the government, the University of Zambia will be the opposition. We begin in 15 minutes. Thank you. Also to the teams that are preparing, ensure that you don't come late, lest you receive a point deduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting the final, so may we please be seated so that we begin.
Wamvera yose n'ama insurance
Okay, we are good to go. Let's please settle down. Teams, please come through. We do not want to deduct anyone's points. We want everyone to begin at 0. The motion that is being debated states as follows. This House believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital market. This House believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital markets. Cavendish University will be proposing. They're the government. The University of Zambia are the opposition. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin this debate, we call up front Cavendish University a round of applause. Cavendish were finalists in 2025. They find themselves as finalists in 2026. Last year they fell short to Evelyn Horn College, who represented the province at the Nationals last year. Let's see what this year has in store for them. Ladies and gentlemen, in opposition we have the University of Zambia. Unza, please take the stage. A round of applause for them as they come forward. I should make mention that both institutions have never represented the province. So for either, it will be a first. I should also make it known that Evelyn Horn, from the inception, has been the only provincial representative for Lusaka province. And in that time, there have been finalists, semi-finalists, and quarter-finalists at the Nationals. And so, meaning this year's representative, if you are to do any better, yours is to win. But of course, that will not be an easy task. Ladies and gentlemen, timekeepers, those in charge of evidence, please quickly so that we can begin. Timekeepers, quickly, and those to pass on evidence. Cavendish University, I don't see your people. We do not want to deduct anyone's points. All right. As some extra motivation, I should make mention that the best speaker for this provincial that began on Wednesday will walk away with 1,000 kwacha courtesy of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the winning institution will walk away with 2,000 kwacha. And all the participating institutions, or those that participated from Wednesday, will be certified. So no one is walking away empty-handed. And to the finalists, you should know that at the Nationals, the prize is 40,000 kwacha. In case you fall short of that, 20,000 kwacha isn't bad for the runners-up, and 10,000 kwacha isn't bad also for the second runners-up. And also, the fourth placed institution will walk away with 7,500 kwacha. So that is some collective motivation. Individual motivation, the best speaker at the Nationals walks away with 4,000. The second best walks away with 2,000. The third best walks away with 1,000 kwacha. And all of them are given a paid internship with the Securities and Exchange Commission for 6 months. So all the best to both institutions. May the best team win. Shall we begin? Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Cavendish. Okay, I'm being given a signal to pause. While that's happening, please write down your names so that we can submit to the judges. Hello. Before we start, I'd like to recognize the presence of the Securities and Exchange Commission Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Philip Chitalu. A round of applause. And it's my distinct honor to call him up front just to share some words of encouragement to the students before the final begins. Let's please give him a round of applause.
Like a pasta or something. I think very short words from me. It's interesting to be in the final, and what I've been told is this year we're a lot better than last year, and thanks to you guys, we hope to keep improving every year, and then work hard, because there are a lot of surprises that happen at the final. Depending on how we wake up with double prizes, and I get to do that. I can't do it here because I do not have a budget, but come to the final. We were in Samfia the other year, last year we were in Livingston. Only God knows where one of you would join us at the finals. So may the best team win. If I'm not mistaken, it's the first time Onza is participating, right? Yeah, we've always been wondering why. We have you here now, so I'm not endorsing Onza. I'm from CBU. Yeah, so may the best team really win. I do not have much to say. Thank you very much.
Some extra motivation. The CEO is actually very right when he says, depending on which side of the bed SEC wakes up from, sometimes prizes are doubled. So last year, the grand prize was 20,000 kwacha. But because the CEO woke up on the right side of the bed, it was doubled. Right? And for the best speakers, each of them, their prizes were doubled. So that's some motivation for you to do your best and find yourselves at the grand finale. We begin this final, ladies and gentlemen. Cavendish University going up against the University of Zambia, the former as the government and the latter as the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for that call. Now, all protocol is highly observed. The motion before this House is, this House believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital markets. Now, I stand before this House today to lead the proposition against a misconception that has slowed financial inclusion for far too long. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest barrier to investment is not always money. Sometimes it is simply not knowing where to begin. And every day, ordinary Zambians hear words like shares, hear words like bonds, like dividends, and capital markets. And to many people, these words sound complicated, they sound complex and too confusing, or only meant for experts. As a result, thousands of people who have the ability to invest never take the first step. Now, this is exactly why we stand before this house today. The motion is asking us whether artificial intelligence has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital markets. Proceed, sir.
Assembled intellectuals, the honorable member has stated to this house that common Zambians know of these words such as bonds and shares and about investment. So then that tells us that information really shouldn't be the real problem, but rather the finances. And when I come in, I'll prove it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But are you aware that one share can even go for up to 10 kwacha? Are you aware? So it's not really the finances. Sometimes it is the information. I proceed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as the proposition, we are saying yes. Our principle, you see, is very simple. When information becomes easier to understand, markets become easier to access. It goes hand in hand. Now, our first argument, it aligns that AI removes the knowledge barrier. And many Zambians, they do not stay away from investing because they lack interest. They stay away because they lack confidence, investor confidence. Now, they do not understand financial reports, investment terms, or where to start. And AI changes that, ladies and gentlemen. So, loud.
Thank you so much. Now, while we recognize artificial intelligence as a game changer, how many people do you think you're going to reach practically with artificial intelligence when only 30% of the entire Zambia is internet connected?
Thank you so much for that. And because you stated a statistic, my deputy prime minister will also show statistics with exactly how AI can reach ordinary Zambians. So thank you so much. Now, secondly, AI reduces the cost of accessing investment guidance. Now, you see, not every Zambian can afford a financial advisor. I personally can't. So now AI-powered chatbots and digital assistants can provide these basic investment information at little or no cost at all, allowing who? Allowing students, young professionals, and small business owners to learn before they invest. Now, this makes capital markets more inclusive. Now, I know what the opposition will say. They will argue that AI can make mistakes, they can produce inaccurate information, or even expose investors to cyber risks. And we acknowledge those concerns. However, ladies and gentlemen, those risks can be managed through what? Through regulation. Through what? Through investor education and human oversight. Now, AI, we are not saying AI will replace human judgment. AI is not replacing human judgment. It is supporting it. And that is exactly where we as the government, we stand. Once again, it does have the potential. I submit. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the final is just beginning, and that was the Prime Minister. What a submission, a round of applause for her. Obviously, the opposition has something to say in response, and so we call upon the leader of the opposition to make his submission.
Honorable adjudicators, members of the House, might I simply say, all protocol is highly observed. Now, panel, the thing we find problematic in this debate is that side government is trying to use information as the primary limit to retail investment in Zambia. Now, panel, let me give you an analogy. Imagine a patient with a headache, with HIV, with acute anemia, and then you only diagnose them with Panadol. Panel, that is not realistic and it does not work in today's debate. And we are going to explain as side opposition. Now, the motion reads as I quote, "This House believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia capital markets." Now, panel, I'll define key terms in today's debate. Firstly, significant. Significant means important or noticeable. Now, we are not neglecting the fact that AI may or may not increase retail participation, but we are asking the big question: will it be significant? Will it be impactful? And will it be important? That's the question we want to answer in today's debate. The next definition is retail investors. Panel, retail investors are individuals who buy and sell securities for personal accounts rather than institutional or business purposes. Panel, who are we talking about in today's debate? That's what we have to understand. We are talking about you and me, but not only you and me. We are talking about people in the compounds. We're not talking about people in the compounds. We are talking about civil servants, people in rural areas who may not have access to this AI. Panel, let us understand our status quo as Zambia. Firstly, the UN tells us that 67% of Zambians live in acute poverty. What does this tell us? These people already do not have the capacity to invest in retail, in the capital markets. So that already eliminates them. Then we go to the lower middle class and upper middle class. Panel, the lower middle class and upper middle class are drowning with loans. Already civil servants are crying to the government to say they need their loans to be withdrawn. Now, panel, if the civil servants, the upper middle class and lower middle class, already themselves, they cannot afford to save money. In fact, let me engage this shortly. In fact, they are already living beyond their means. Where are they going to find the money to invest in the capital markets? And our second speaker will highlight that further. We'll now engage.
Mr. Speaker, we do agree that retail participation is low in Zambia. Therefore, if retail participation is low and you are denying AI to be used to increase retail participation and its deliberation of information, then what do you suggest to be the best policy for retail participation? Because you have said that retail participation is a major factor of economic and not having money, not about understanding how finances work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, third speaker will come and highlight in detail what our recommendations are for today's debate. So I'll leave this house with a question to this house. Panel, we understand these challenges that the Zambians face. The Zambians do not have the capacity. No matter how much information you give to them, they will not invest because information without capacity is useless. It's useless. Engage.
Mr. Speaker, if the case is information, then why are millions of Zambians who are on WhatsApp, My Airtel, Standard Chartered, or using artificial intelligence to understand how to get a bank loan, how to text on WhatsApp, and even how to do their assignments?
Thank you very much for that POI. I didn't think the speaker heard me clearly. What I'm saying is, listen, you have the information, but you do not have the capacity. So what good is that information if you do not have the capacity to use it? With that, I digress. Thank you.
What a final this is turning out to be. Can you imagine what the national finale will be like if this is a provincial final? That was the leader of the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now give an opportunity to the lawyer himself, Deputy Prime Minister.
Countrymen and women, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that honorable call. May I simply say all protocol is highly observed. Sam Altman, the CEO and chairman of OpenAI, once said, AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace those who don't. You see, for a wide number of years, we've constantly depended on the idea that we're a third world generation country, right? We've perpetuated the idea, even in our children's and in the generations to come, that we're a third world country and that we cannot develop and we cannot move with technology because we are black and we're in Zambia and we don't have finances and ABCD and ABCD. But look at where we are currently. We're still struggling with industrialization. Why? Because at the time when it was happening in Europe, we said that we do not have finances. We said that we cannot afford it. Ladies and gentlemen, as your proposing government, we are here to assure you that we have the finances and we have the method to make AI possible for Zambia. We have those finances, ladies and gentlemen, to increase ritual participation, and because of that, ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that we see the potential in AI to do that. Why do we say so, ladies and gentlemen? You see, the opposition government is here to tell we, your government, who makes your budget, that we do not have money. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. First things first, we as your proposing government understand that AI is quite a little bit difficult and complex to understand. But understand this, ladies and gentlemen. OpenAI is free for every country to use. It is out there, ladies and gentlemen. Those satellites are out there for every country to use because they accommodate and they feed on the information that is given. Please, I'll take that.
Honorable member, if AI is free for everyone to use, how many people in a nation where in fact 7 out of 10 people are living below extreme poverty, even free things become difficult for them to get?
Much obliged, ladies and gentlemen. But we have people in Zambia that take their children to high learning institutions. We have people in Zambia that take their children to high expensive schools. But then we don't question where they get that money, right? But when it comes to AI, we question where that money is going to come from. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wake up. How many cars are on the Great East Road today, are on the Great North today? Those cars are owned by Zambians. Zambians have money. You have money. I have money, ladies and gentlemen. Forging ahead to my argument, ladies and gentlemen. Understand one thing, ladies and gentlemen. 500 participants exist on the Lucy. And guess what? Over 13 million Zambians have access to internet. But why do we only see a 500 plus people existing on the Lucy, ladies and gentlemen? Doesn't that question the amount of information that is going out there? And here is the funny fact, ladies and gentlemen. Both WhatsApp and Facebook that most of us are accustomed to use OpenAI. Ladies and gentlemen, these platforms have more than 6 million subscribers. What do you think that interprets to? Please, I'll take that POI for the last time.
Thank you so much. Now, honorable member, you gave an example of how many cars are on Great East, and you have declared that you've got money and we have money. Have you considered that the majority of Zambians are not driving? They do not have that money. What then are you trying to tell the House?
Much obliged. So, you see, the perpetuation of the idea of affordability takes away the context of today's motion. The context of today's motion is based on the potential of AI, right? We've seen this potential in the education sector. How many students here use AI for their assignments? Obviously, everyone, right? But then when it comes to finances, we want to pretend like AI is the harm. Ladies and gentlemen, let's understand that those who are scared don't survive in the land of the brave. Those who are scared in the third world generation will not survive and will continue to remain behind as third world generation. But we, as your proposing government, are saying no to that. We want to move Zambia forward. Ladies and gentlemen, moving forward to the regulatory policies that the SEC itself has put in place to make sure that AI is not going to come and destabilize our capital markets, we have put in place regulatory sandboxes. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? When you check the statute under Section 33 of the Securities Exchange Act number 41 of 2016, it states, ladies and gentlemen, that a sand regulatory box is put in place for newly technologies that are IPOing. What does it mean? It means that those technologies that are not yet proven in the market will have to undergo a test. This is a necessary where we test.
Your time is up.
Please, 20 seconds.
20 seconds, please.
These sandboxes, ladies and gentlemen, test the potential and the capabilities of these technologies. Henceforth, we as your government are telling you that Proverbs 2 verse 2 says that a bad carpenter blames the two. But who is the carpenter? We are the carpenters, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Not only is he a lawyer, he's also a pastor. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. This debate is getting heated. Those of you joining us on Facebook and on YouTube, thank you so much. Feel free to leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if you're enjoying. Tell us who you think should be best speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the debate, and at this point, we call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for your call. And indeed, shall I simply say, all diplomatic courtesy is highly and sincerely observed. Now, panel, before I move any further, we would like to express our concern with the arguments that are being raised by the government. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, their arguments are extremely discriminative against the common Zambians. They believe that all of us take our children to expensive schools. They believe that all of us drive expensive cars on Greatest Road. But then the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, Zambians, the majority of our country lives in the rural areas. The view that Zambia is only Lusaka is extremely short-sighted, and we find that as problematic in today's debate. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we find it extremely problematic that the statistics of the government that do not tally with what is naturally renowned. Their deputy leader told us that there are 30 million Zambians that have access to the internet. Well, members of the House, we ask you, where have the extra 10 million Zambians come from? Because as of the last census, there were 20 million Zambians in this country. Why are they fabricating information for us to give? Now, ladies and gentlemen, and panel, the motion, I will engage you.
Now, honorable member, isn't opposing AI effectively reserving sophisticated investment tools? Please explain. Thank you.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, this motion is not talking about whether or not we should include AI into the market. What it is asking us, ladies and gentlemen, and I will move in this way, is that if we introduced AI into the market, will it increase substantially the amount of participants from the retail investor? And that is what our motion is asking us, panel. Now, as the opposition, we have this stance. Artificial intelligence does not source or does not combat the real cause or the real problem that is being faced and what is limiting retail investors in Zambia. This is what we believe the real limit to retail investors in Zambia is. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, there is low disposable income in the households. This is as a result of high unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, another thing is inflation, which is leading to a rising cost of living. And all together, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to a concept of competing household priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to quote from the Zambia Statistical Agency that told us about household finances. They tell us, ladies and gentlemen, that in rural areas, households spend 56.4% of their incomes on food-related costs and 43.6% on non-food expenditures, while in urban areas, expenditure on food amounted to 34.7%, while on non-food things was 65.3%. I will do the mathematics for you. In the rural areas, 56.4 plus 43.6 is 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, in the urban areas, 34.7 plus 65.3 is also 100%. Good Samaritan to the judges. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the government came and told us that certain shares, I will engage you, they told us that certain shares can cost as little as 10 kwacha. But if I'm spending everything I'm earning on literally living, where is the extra 10 kwacha coming from? I will engage.
First of all, if you spend everything you're earning on a stock, then you're not financially literate. That's to begin with. That's why we need AIs to finance that. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to ask you, what is more expensive between human labor and an algorithm that can work throughout the night without needing food, a bath, and to feed his family? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You have told this house that spending all your money on investment is very unwise. But we're telling you that we don't even have any money to spend on investment because everything is going to food and non-food costs, things that we need in our households. Panel, their second question is asking us whether or not it is more costly to have all these people. But we're saying that the motion of this debate is not how cost effective AI is. It is about whether AI improves your investment and my investment at the retail level. Now, panel, allow me to move on and tell you another state, ladies and gentlemen. Something that is also problematic for the retail investor is the potential return on investment. A study that was carried out by the Cambridge University on all global markets has told us that the retail order imbalance earns a dismal annualized return of 14.8% among stocks that are heavily traded, for example, things like Airtel, while on other stocks was 6.6%. Let me put this into context. Good Samaritan. Ladies and gentlemen, if I invested 100 kwacha, time up?
Your time is up. 15 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we are saying to this house is, if a woman in the Kantemba has 100 kwacha to invest, what she needs is an extra 100 kwacha and not a potential 14 kwacha in the next year. With this panel, we rest our case.
What a debate. I can see Mr. Kondolo is thoroughly enjoying himself. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the Deputy Opposition Leader. We continue with this provincial final. Remember, only one of these will represent the province at this year's grand finale. And now let's welcome the government member as she makes her submission.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol is observed. The first question I would like to pose is the fact that if money was a problem, people, would people not be falling prey to pyramid schemes? That's a question we have to ask. This is not just a monetary thing. This is financial literacy we are talking about. And as our Prime Minister even mentioned it, the fact that these words are scary. Words such as dividends are scary. And that is why we are saying the fact that with artificial intelligence, it gets to explain it in a language you understand. And that language is not just English, it's a language called understanding.
They have asked us if the honorable member has asked us if money was an issue, then we would have been falling prey to pyramid schemes. Yes, just recently, ladies and gentlemen, there was the Safa mining scandal that occurred in Zambia, and we found that extremely problematic because money is a problem. Please address that, honorable member.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's so saddening the fact that we keep trying to tell team opposition the fact that this is not a fight on the fact that this is a monetary thing. We are talking about financial literacy. For us to not be able to fall in those schemes that we are talking about, the financial literacy is what is lacking, and that is what AI is here to get. Getting into my first point, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a debate on the perfection of AI, it's on the potential of AI. And we have seen that potential in the health sector, in the education sector, and even as students, we use it, don't we?
Panel, they are talking about potential. Yes, AI has potential, but potential to do what? To significantly increase retail participation. So we are not negating the potential of AI, but we are just refusing the fact that it cannot increase retail participation without addressing the underlying issues. I regress. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember that you do not look at a seed and say, why is it not a tree? What do you say? You look at its potential for it to become a tree. And that is what we are talking about. The fact that this is not a monetary thing, it's what financial literacy we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Bringing to the fact that, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have Z Translate. This gaps the bridge between financial literacy in our own languages. As I said, this is not about English, it's about understanding. This IPA basically gave us languages for us to be able to translate from English to Bemba, to Tonga, to Lozi, to Nyanja. Let me take you to the northern western province, ladies and gentlemen, which is Kaunde, Luvale, and that is what we are talking about. The fact that AI does have the potential for these people to be able to understand the financial literacy, for us to increase the what? The retail participation, ladies and gentlemen. Getting into my last point, ladies and gentlemen, which is the fact that this, ladies and gentlemen, is about AI personalization. The fact that the moment we have this AIs, ladies and gentlemen, we are able to communicate and not think that this is a field this is not a field, this is a field for people that are expert. This is a field for all of us Zambians, isn't it? And for AI, they are able to tell you, even just as students, we go there and say, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. That is something that somebody in the capital markets, for instance, will not be able to do for you as an expert, but AI can do this for you. You say, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and I will understand. And that is what we are talking about. This is financial literacy we are trying to do. AI is the future for the financial literacy of Zambia. We want to be financial literate, and opposition is against that. So ladies and gentlemen, let us reap where we sowed. We cannot be saying that we cannot go forward because of the fear of the fact that we do not have money. We do have money. We must just learn how to use it. We have been mobilized. We are here to learn how to do what? To use our money. Smart money talks. Let's use that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, this is a nice final. I wish I was a panelist. Ladies and gentlemen, That was the member of government making her submission. Let's now give the opportunity to the member of the opposition to also say something.
Allow me to restate the motion. This House believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital market. To the core of this particular motion, we are not arguing whether AI has potential. In fact, it does, but does it have the potential to significantly increase? That is the debate today. And it appears the government bench missed that part. Panel, we need to realize the following. Number one, potential does not equate to significant increase. So just because we prove that AI has potential, which we agree with, it does not prove that this potential is indeed going to be significant for the retail investors. And we need to have this understanding. Who is this retail investor? It is you, it is me, who are not part of these big entities. So panel, artificial intelligence coming to you, how then does it help you to access the capital market? Panel, the Deputy Prime Minister came to this podium and told us about OpenAI. Is OpenAI the one they want to use for our capital markets? I'll engage it.
Considering that countries like Zimbabwe and South Africa, who are currently dominating in the Southern African development community when it comes to the stock exchange, already use artificial intelligence, don't you think that you opposing the significance of the potential of AI in Zambia just means Zambia will remain uncompetitive within the structures?
Panel, artificial intelligence, yes, is significantly working for these particular companies, but what does it address? The big companies are not the retail investors like you and me. Panel, furthermore, the member of government came here and asked us a question about addressing financial literacy. Panel, let us remember to begin with that a number of people in our country, of course, are not financially literate. But then in addition to that, panel, they also don't have access to this internet. So even when you do introduce the artificial intelligence, how then is it going to improve financial literacy when they already don't have access to internet access? I engage.
Mr. Speaker, considering that at least 1 million Zambians have smartphones that they use on a daily basis and our current capital markets have less than 500,000 users, don't you think the problem might also be the fact of understanding how actually we use these applications on these apps, considering that Luce is there but people still prefer to use FNB because FNB is a chat box that's more friendly?
Panel, the government is assuming that the reason people are not investing is because they do not know. That is not the only reason. As highlighted by the second speaker, there are other reasons that are affecting their participation on the capital market. Panel, to begin with, we've got people who are poor. So even if they have a smartphone, if they are poor, where is the money going to come from for them to invest? Panel, Excel magazine says the following: Zambia has progress in internet access and mobile connectivity, but true technology adoption remains low due to high costs, weak infrastructure, limited digital literacy, and low trust in digital platforms. The Good Samaritan do as wise. What does this tell us, panel? That even in the event that we did introduce artificial intelligence, it would not be significant because majority of the Zambians do not have access to something that is going to give them the platform to access the same AI that they choose to bring. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, Zambia's fourth industrial revolution report states that internet penetration is at 31%, which simply means this: even when you bring the AI that does require internet, only 30 out of 100 people are going to access it. Is that going to be significant increase? No. Panel, we need to understand that potential for increase is there, but the question is it significant? And the government has failed to prove that point. Panel, we also need to understand this: adding AI to our capital markets is only servicing those who are already rich. Because, panel, we need to realize that there are elites in our society, and the elites have access to these tools. They have access to internet. They have access to all of these apps that they're talking about. In fact, some of us don't even have the same bank accounts that they were talking about with regard to FNB. So, panel, what does this do? You introduce artificial intelligence, and the only people who get to benefit are the already wealthy people. And it leaves out my mother in Shangombo. It leaves out my uncle who is in Kanyuka. Panel, we are arguing significant increase, not just an increase nonetheless. But what then is the actual problem? Panel, the actual problem currently in our country is not that we lack technology. It is that we lack the basic financial literacy. Now they come to this house and tell us that artificial intelligence is the solution to that. Is that practical when we have demonstrated that people don't have access to the internet? No, it is not. What then? 30 seconds to summarize.
20 seconds only.
Thank you so much. What then is the solution? Simple. Financial literacy at the level of school, secondary school, primary school. Then we can address financial literacy, because there at least we've got people who really need this information. And panel, majority of the Zambians are unaware about Lucid to begin with. I usually want to introduce artificial intelligence. Remember, there is a root. Let's focus on the root and not the stem. With that being said, I submit.
This is a heated final. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we are down to the very last speakers of this debate, I should remind you that your fate hangs in the balance. What you do now cannot be taken back. So all the best to both of the last speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, for 5 minutes uninterrupted, the government whip will speak. A round of applause for him as he comes forward.
Ladies and gentlemen of this august house, all protocol is observed. Now, we as the government stand proud and affirm this motion that this house believes that AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital markets. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I go in to summarize our argument for the government, let me give you the reasons that we've been given by the opposition. That number one, we are poor. Number two, it's for the wealthy. Number three, we lack infrastructure. And number four, we don't have financial literacy. Why this argument does not subsist is, number one, us being financially literate. Artificial intelligence, on our argument, can cater for that through what? Diversification of languages, simplification of modules, simplification of great terms, and to top it off, basic understanding of how you invest, where, why, and when. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that artificial intelligence in capital markets cannot be introduced because of infrastructure. Now, if infrastructure was a problem, don't you think the smartphones that we have, considering that every single person in this room does have a smartphone, but not every single person in this room is on capital markets? It's not an infrastructure problem. It's more about how we understand the things that are happening with capital markets. It's more about our education, and it's also more about our exposure. Remember, the reason why most of our grandmothers are now staying consistently on WhatsApp is because of Meta AI. It's not because of anything else. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we also proceed to the argument that AI is a wealth-based thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that the democratization of wealth is heavily dependent on how we, the citizens, view ourselves, how we take ourselves from stage to stage, and how we want to progress. And to satisfy our 8th National Development Plan, when it comes to digitalization, we are saying that we must empower our various ministries, our various methods of making money with new and emerging technologies for us to become better, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we proceed to the government's argument on how AI has the potential to significantly increase retail participation in Zambia's capital markets. Remember, retail participation is who? You, me, the student who's at UNZA, the student who's at Cavendish, the student who's at NIPA, the mom who's at Solwezi. We are the retail investors. But one major thing comes in. It's that we don't necessarily understand where we are going, how we are going, why we are doing it. And to top it off, we don't have someone who is not as expensive as my lecturer from university to explain it to me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, number one, we must understand that artificial intelligence has the capabilities of breaking the language barrier. That means you in Nyanja, you in Bemba, me who speaks Shona, you in Zulu, we're all in Zambia can still understand the same capital market. Now, secondly, we're also saying that it's a convenience for simple understanding. What do I mean? Someone can train their child from the age of 5 how to use artificial intelligence, and they grow to understand how capital markets work through that artificial intelligence. Remember, you can download, if you were to introduce AI into applications like MyLuce, you could use that for your 5-year-old and tell them, explain to my 5-year-old, because they're a 5-year-old, and you see that 5 years they'll become a 10-year-old investor. Now we also go into the expense of affordability. Remember, we have things like OpenAI that are accessible to any nation to test out things. Now, these things go about to the extent of affordability to such that we can cater, number one, in our budget to introduce small mechanisms on how we can introduce AI in our capital markets. Remember, we're talking about the potential. It's not an abrupt thing. It's a systematic approach on how we see the significance and how it will generally contribute to our society. Now, ladies and gentlemen, where is the significance of AI? Remember, we remove, number one, the 9-to-5 requirement for us to get brokers who are expensive, like my lecturer at Cavendish. Secondly, we are also catering for the language barrier that each and every single person here, whether you speak Chinese, Japanese, English, whatever it may be, you are still involved. Then we also go to the extent that AI can enhance literacy. Not just literacy by breaking the language barrier, but literacy by simplifying things. Then also, we go to the last extent that AI does not have the ability to learn. Ladies and gentlemen, various systems have been created for artificial intelligence, especially those such as RAG, that are able to learn and update investors on a day-to-day basis, because these are financial technologies that generate information based on the current status and based on the current day that we're working with. Now, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that AI has the potential to significantly increase our participation in Zambia's capital markets. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the whip of the government, a round of applause. What a submission by the government. Unfortunately for them at this point, all they can do is watch and listen. Let's give the opportunity to the whip of the opposition to end this debate. A round of applause for her.
Yes, I think it is. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through you, all protocol be highly observed. Now, panel. In today's motion, side government had two burdens of which they failed to deliver on and will hold them accountable. Panel, they were supposed to come to this house and number one, show us exactly as to how through AI there can be a significant increase. Panel, the key word is significant increase, not any form of increase, but a significant increase, one that is of great magnitude that we can benefit from. But they failed to show us that. Panel, let me engage with the arguments right now. The government's solution as to the biggest barrier is financial literacy, but then it does not cater for each and every single person. It is not inclusive. Panel, where would the financial literacy be given? They said through AI. On what platform would that be done? On cell phones. But then we've already established to say that not majority of the country uses the cell phones because the retail population is mostly found in the rural areas. Do they have those phones? Certainly not. Aside from that, panel, you need to understand that AI runs on 2G. AI runs on 4G and majority of the rural population is 2G. So how then do they access the same financial literacy that they're advocating for? Something is not inclusive for each and every single person. Panel, they said to say that another thing is that with regards to AI, it is able to help with information. But then panel, that is not justifiable because I can have the access to information, but I won't have the money. A very good example is right now. Since I started the debates, I learned more about the capital markets. I understood to say that an Airtel share is going at 185 kwacha. But do I have the money, panel? No. Do I have the information? Yes. What does that mean? That the solution that they give is not enough. We tell you to say that the biggest challenge that retail people face is money. They do not have money to buy these shares that they claim about. Henceforth, it is not justifiable. Panel, the third speaker came and told us to say that they can also use free versions of AI. But then you need to understand something about those free versions of AI. It is a substandard
substandard panel. What are we trying to say? Are we going to take substandard versions of AI on the capital markets? Certainly not. We've told you the nature about the capital markets. You need to understand, in order for you to have a quality AI, most of these days you need to pay $20 a month. Can you afford that $20 as a month because you want to access the capital markets? We've told you already that the average Zambian citizen lacks basic things. We tell you to say that there is unemployment. We tell you to say that there is inflation in the country, panel. You need to be realistic and feasible about the alternatives that they propose. Panel, we tell them to say that yes, the AI that you propose that will have a significant increase on the capital markets has risk. They tell us to say that will solve that through regulations, but we tell you to say that currently there is no policy, there is no law for this AI. There is only a policy. What does this mean? We cannot hold you accountable in a situation that there is misinformation, panel. You need a law that will govern you. So the solution that they provide again is not feasible in today's debate, panel. They give us the alternatives, but I've been able to show that none of them are adding up. We tell you the real barrier, which is that people do not have money in the country. Panel, okay. Panel, they told us to say that through AI again, people can utilize it for financial literacy. But we tell you to say that at the use of AI, there is something known as over-reliance and over-dependence. And how can this be best? How can this example be best seen? Panel, we are students here. Majority of us use ChatGPT. We put our assignment there without even understanding what the assignment is about, yet you submit it. It is the same thing with the capital markets. You will find a situation as to which retail investors will rely on the AI for their information without understanding what is actually being talked about. Will they learn about this? No. They said to say that people will actually learn the market. But then, panel, consider over-dependence. We want people to be educated and exactly know the do's and the don'ts of the market. And AI does not solve that problem in today's debate. Panel, we give you Good Samaritan. Okay. Panel, what are the alternatives in today's debate? We tell you to say that the biggest challenge is that in Zambia currently, there is a poor investing culture that we have learned. What do you see? You see situations about things that are highly known as Kaloba, Chilimba. That is what we see. We see village banking. People need to be educated from a young age about what it means to have a share. You need to know to say that you can own a share at a young age, but yet there is not this information that is given to people. We want people at a young age, panel, to be able to understand what it actually means to be a shareholder, especially if you're going to be a retail investor. Panel, I asked for 20 seconds to sum up.
20 seconds.
Panel, like I earlier explained, what should the government do? Invest in educating people about the investing culture in the right way. I rest my case.
Panel, I hope you've heard. A round of applause for the whip of the opposition. What a final this was, both to the University of Zambia and to Cavendish University. Thank you for a very enlightening and entertaining final. Shake hands as you leave the stage. Let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now all they can do is wait for their fate.
All the way through.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we will allow the judges to deliberate, and upon completion, the announcement of the result
Yeah, please smile a little bit so that you don't frighten me as I was frightening you. Yeah. So I just have a few points that we were considering when